The story begins with the hero, Yuga, gathering outside the Demon Lord's castle with his loyal party. Before entering the castle, the party members hype each other up for the final battle. Soon, the castle's gates open and several sinister eyes peek out from within. After the party enters the castle, they are greeted by the Demon Lord's general, Yoki, who arrogantly taunts them for being too weak. The party's mage tries to attack Yoki with an energy blast, but he easily dispels it. Next, the swordsman tries to melee him, but Yoki dodges him attack and sends him back with a kick. Finally, the support mage, Cecilia, uses an enhancement spell on Yuga, who unleashes his ultimate spell, Excalibur, towards Yoki. Yoki retorts with his own endless dark spell, which clashes with the hero's Excalibur. After a power struggle, Yoki overwhelms the hero and defeats the whole party on his own. Lying on the ground, defeated, Yuga wonders if this is the end of the road for him and his friends. After Yuga passes out, Yoki starts healing all the defeated heroes. However, he notices that the support mage looks very pretty and ends up distracted by her looks. After some time, he brings the heroes to a prison in the castle. Inside, Yoki's subordinates ask him if they should kill the heroes. Yoki gets shocked by their presence, so all of his subordinates start calling him out for staring at the unconscious Cecilia. Finally, Yoki sighs and tells them to dump the heroes near a human village, painfully saying goodbye to his angelic crush. After a month, the Demon Lord summons Yoki straight to his room. There, his right-hand man, Zekil, asks Yoki how many times he had to deal with the heroes returning for a challenge. Yoki tells him that they've challenged him 13 times already, so Zekil thinks that the heroes are a bunch of weaklings who can't learn their lesson. The Demon Lord wonders why Yoki still hasn't ended the heroes' lives yet. In response, Yoki explains that those miserable heroes don't even deserve his attention. Hearing this, the Demon Lord suggests letting his subordinates handle the task and eliminate the heroes in his place. Surprised, Yoki thinks that his poor servants stand no chance against the hero's power, since he also doesn't want the pretty support mage to get hurt. He offers to dispose of the heroes by himself. The Demon Lord smiles, silently agreeing to let Yoki handle it. As Yoki leaves the throne room and heads back to his room, he feels worried for the heroes' lives. He also knows that he's the only one overpowered enough to defeat the heroes. Otherwise, they are strong enough to kill the Demon Lord. In the end, Yoki wonders what he should do next, since the Demon Lord will soon rule over the entire world. The next day, the heroes return to the Demon Lord's castle once more. After Yoki knocks back their swordsman and Yuga, the assault mage, Mikana, tries to counterattack with her own spell. Even though Yoki blocks her initial barrage of spells, Mikana quietly unleashes a second wave right after, catching him by surprise. Despite this, Yoki still reacts in time to block it, and his lightning-fast reflexes leave Mikana completely shocked. Meanwhile, Yoki notices Cecilia healing her friends, which causes him to blush. He then starts laughing and taunts the heroes for their futile attempts at defeating him. Still, Yuga refuses to give up and uses a powerful Excalibur spell to stop him. Unfortunately, Yoki easily survives the attack and tells the heroes they can never defeat him. Yuga refuses to quit, saying that they have no other choice but to keep going if they want to defeat the evil Demon Lord. Hearing this, Yoki suddenly points to Cecilia and tells the heroes they can continue forward if they leave her behind. Yuga instantly refuses, but Mikana suggests accepting Yoki's offer. She points out that this powerful demon can kill them whenever he wants, so they should accept his kindness and complete their true mission. Yuga still refuses to abandon their precious teammate, but at that moment, Cecilia speaks up and tells him that she's willing to stay behind. Finally, Yuga and the party move forward, promising to return for their priestess after they defeat the Demon Lord. Once they all leave, Cecilia asks Yoki why he made her stay behind. Thinking that he still wants to fight, she tries to use an attack. However, Yoki quickly surrenders and tries to negotiate with her. Cecilia questions why he's bothering to introduce himself when he plans to kill her anyway. He responds that if he truly wanted her dead, he would have done it from the very beginning. At last, she relaxes and asks him what it is that he wants. Yoki gathers his courage and admits that he fell in love with her at first sight. Admitting stating that he wants to go out with her. Cecilia is left completely shocked. After giving it some thought, she politely turns down his offer. Her rejection is so crushing that Yoki loses all his will to live. Cecilia thinks that he was just trying to trick her and tries to attack him again. However, since Yoki doesn't even bother defending, she stops her attack midway. Yoki tells her to keep going and finish him off since he doesn't want to live anymore. Cecilia refuses to believe that he'd give up so easily, so he explains that he has been trapped in the Demon Lord's castle for his entire life. He reveals that he's only allowed to go out to destroy human villages, but he never wanted to do that. Surprised, Cecilia refuses to believe him, saying that all demons are evil. Yoki explains that even if he looks like a demon, he was actually reincarnated from another world. Cecilia feels confused, so Yoki tells her that he's actually a human inside the body of a demon. She realizes that Yoki must have incredible powers as a reincarnated person, so she wonders why he hasn't defeated the Demon Lord on his own. Yoki explains that if he defeated the Demon Lord, he would become the next leader of the demons, which would force him to commit terrible atrocities against humankind. Since Yoki felt helpless, he thought that he'd spend the rest of his life miserably rotting away in his cell. However, that's when he met Cecilia, who gave him hope that life was worth living. Yoki thinks that he's ready to give up on everything since even his last hope rejected him. Suddenly, Cecilia tells him that he should keep living and use the power he has to help humanity. She thinks that he can serve another purpose in life and offers to help him move to the outside the world. A few days later, the Kingdom of Clarinus holds a celebration for all their heroes on their victory against the Demon Lord. King Darts congratulates all the heroes before him for protecting their world from a great evil and announces that their kingdom will hold a 3-day celebration in their honor. Outside the kingdom, Yoki watches from a secluded spot. Knowing that Cecilia lives there, to disguise himself as a normal human, he painfully breaks off his demon horn and enters the kingdom. Meanwhile, Makana congratulates Yuga on their victory, and he feels overjoyed. He then turns to Cecilia to celebrate, knowing that their win was thanks to her, which causes Makana to feel neglected. A little while later, Yoki enters the city's adventurers guild to register himself. The lazy receptionist, Clayman, sighs and pulls out the registration form. After Yoki signs the form, Clayman gives him a guild card and explains that he'll start at the lowest F rank, which goes up to S rank. He explains that Yoki can take commissions to rank up, but it normally takes an adventurer a full month to reach E rank. Then, he warns Yoki not to lose his card and wishes him good luck. After getting his card, Yoki completes a bunch of missions and gets enough money to rent an inn. A week later, he enters the guild again, where all the adventurers are discussing a rising adventurer who is ranking up crazy fast. Meanwhile, Yoki asks Clayman for some more commissions, but the lazy receptionist gets enraged since he doesn't want to deal with any paperwork today and tells him to talk to the pretty lady next to him instead. However, Yoki refuses, saying that he likes spending time with Clayman instead. Putting that aside, Clayman asks Yoki about his real identity, knowing that no normal person can go from F to D rank in just a week. Yoki tries to pretend he doesn't know, so Clayman sighs, saying that he can't persecute him since he hasn't done anything illegal. Just then, a hooded girl walks in and asks Clayman to cancel Yoki's missions. Surprised, Yoki realizes that the hooded girl is Cecilia. Clayman also wonders why the hero priestess is visiting the guild, so Cecilia tells him to keep his voice down. She then turns to Yoki and invites him to her house for a private chat. As they ride in Cecilia's carriage, Yoki wonders why a girl invited him home. When they reach Cecilia's house, one of the guards gets suspicious after seeing Yoki coming out of the carriage. He points his spear at Yoki and demands to know why he was with Cecilia, so she steps out and explains that he's her friend. Then, another guard drags his partner away, and Cecilia takes Yoki inside for tea. There, she apologizes for not finding him sooner, but Yoki doesn't mind. He wonders how she managed to find him in such a massive city, and she explains that he's become extremely popular in town after climbing all the way to D rank in such a short time. Because of that, she asks him to quit the Adventurers Guild, which leaves him completely confused. She explains that after Yuga defeated the Demon Lord, the other nations have started a proxy war to take power. She reveals that Yuga is already getting plenty of offers from the rulers, including women, money, and all the power he could dream of. While Yoki feels jealous of the hero, he also realizes that the nations are just trying to use him as a pawn. Cecilia then points out that with his extraordinary power, Yoki would also attract similar attention from the nations wanting to use his strength. since he's even stronger than the hero. She fears that Yoki's power would be misused to take over the world. Yoki understands her fears, but he also reminds her that he has bills to pay. Cecilia offers to hire him herself, but she admits that she doesn't have the money worth his time. She then begs him to accept her offer, but suddenly, Yoki tells her to raise her head. He confidently declares that even if the most beautiful woman on earth were offered to him, he would never accept it since he only has eyes for Cecilia. This makes her laugh, and Yoki feels embarrassed by his own big words. Soon, Cecilia's mother, Celia, also enters the room. She apologizes to Yoki for her guard's rude behavior and sends her maid, Sophia, to discipline him. Once the maid leaves, Celia reveals that her daughter is already getting many engagement offers. Yoki gets shocked since even the hero, Yuga, tried confessing to Cecilia, but she reassures him that she turned him down. Seeing Yoki's flustered reaction, Celia wonders if he also likes her daughter. She then sits with him and asks if he'd like to marry Cecilia. Shocked, Yoki wonders if she's testing him, but Celia tells him to give her a straight answer. Then, he shakes his head, explaining that he has already been rejected by Cecilia once. Yoki explains that he's currently trying to build a stable life as an adventurer to propose to Cecilia again. Celia asks if he's refusing her generous offer, so Yoki tells her that he'll still respect Cecilia's feelings. Finally, Celia approves of Yoki's conduct and explains that she was just testing him to see if he jumped at the chance. Since she wouldn't marry her daughter to just any desperate creep, she approves of Yoki and allows him to visit their house in the future. Afterward, Cecilia tells Yoki that her mother might be interested in him. While Yoki still feels uneasy about her mom, he appreciates the chance she gave him. He then asks if he can call her by her first name, and she agrees, calling him by his first name in return. Overjoyed, Yoki cheers loudly, feeling like he is one step closer to the girl he loves. The next day, Yoki tracks down a cicatrice for his quest and effortlessly avoids all of its lasers. As Yoki keeps dodging it, the monster grows even more furious and continues charging towards him. Once it gets close enough, Yoki unleashes a powerful thunderbolt spell that turns the monster bird into a big pile of KFC. After that, he collects every last feather from the bird to finish the quest. Out of nowhere, a Dullahan suddenly shows up, and almost immediately after, a harpy swoops down from above and attacks Yoki. Then, a second boy joins in and also goes after him, prompting Yoki to remind the three attackers that he is actually their former master. Once they realize that the boy is Yoki in disguise, Duke asks why he vanished following the Demon Lord's death. The others share the same question, so Yoki decides to explain the reason he suddenly left them behind. First, he proudly reveals how he confessed his feelings to Cecilia and got rejected without a second thought. Then, Yoki also tells the demons that he is currently living as a human adventurer. This surprises all of them, so Yoki tells everyone they're free to live their lives without him now. However, none of them wants to abandon their master. Curious to see what kind of girl made him leave his previous post, Yoki firmly refuses to let them come along, reminding the demons that they would also need to endure the trouble of wearing extremely careful disguises. Even so, none of them are discouraged by this warning, and in the end, Yoki agrees to let them join. Afterward, he strips them all of their demonic features. When Cecilia finds out that Yoki stripped the poor harpy of all her feathers, she immediately starts chewing him out for his insensitive action. Yoki also admits his mistake and apologizes, so all the demons enjoy watching him suffer. Then, Cecilia takes them all inside her house to serve tea. There, she feels surprised that all three demons pulled off such natural human disguises. Duke explains to her that he attached his head to his armor, while Seek the Pixie and Happiness the Harpy also removed their most prominent features to fit into society. Then, he also tells Cecilia that Yoki is the reason their demon party is so laid back. Back in the Demon Lord's castle, Zekil would always try to force Yoki to work. Unfortunately for him, Yoki always refused to go out of his room, leaving the Demon Lord completely frustrated. At the time, Duke thought it was a good idea to punish Yoki, but he got his head blown off instead. Ever since then, he has been serving Yoki as a true subordinate. Cecilia realizes the respect all the demons hold for him. Suddenly, Yoki realizes that the other two demons are missing. Since they can't afford to let anyone else see them, the group gets up to search for the missing troublemakers. As they walk through the mansion's courtyard, the group finds Seek sleeping on Celia's lap. Yoki apologizes to Celia for any trouble caused by his friend, but she reassures him that it's no trouble. She explains that she had been following Seek around since he was playing alone, but the young boy boy got tired and fell asleep. Yoki nods, but asks her where Happiness went since she was also with Seek. Hearing this, Celia reveals that Sophia found Happiness and already took her in to train her into a proper maid. All of the kids head inside and ask Sophia why she kidnapped their innocent friend. As Sophia learns that Happiness is with Yoki, she explains that she was supposed to get a new maid and just assumed it was her. Yoki also apologizes to Sophia for getting her hopes up and asks Happiness to change out of her uniform. For some reason, Happiness refuses to remove it. She turns to Sophia and asks to keep the job anyway, leaving everyone shocked. Afterward, everyone congratulates Happiness on her new job as they prepare to leave. Celia welcomes the demons to visit her whenever they can, before sneaking up to Yoki. She quickly tells him that Cecilia has a day off coming up, so he should take her out on a date. Elated, Yoki instantly agrees to the parents-sanctioned official hangout. The next day, he waits for Cecilia at their meeting spot. Soon, her carriage arrives at the destination, and she gets off wearing a pretty disguise outfit. As Yoki stares at her in surprise, Cecilia wonders if he's okay. He explains that her glasses really caught him off guard, so she reminds him that she has to remain disguised since the entire city knows her. Then, Cecilia apologizes for putting Yoki through all this, but he shakes his head and promises to make it the best date ever for her. Afterward, both of them explore the city streets together. On their walk, Cecilia notices a cute bakery and makes a mental note to have tea there later. Then, she starts admiring some flowers at a shop, but Yoki inwardly thinks that the flowers can't even compare to her beauty. After they leave the flower shop, Cecilia begins stroking a nearby cat while making cute cat-like sounds, causing Yoki to deliberately look away so he won't give in to the temptation. Shortly after, the two head to a clothing boutique, where Yoki assists her in choosing a beautiful red dress. Afterward, Cecilia thanks Yoki for his company, since she already feels well rested from her usual stressful days. Surprised, he feels glad that he could help her feel better. Then, he takes her to an accessory shop for a small gift. Nearby, Yuga is also out on a date with Makana in disguise. Spotting Cecilia, he immediately starts calling out to her, but Makana shuts him up to protect their covers. Yuga then walks over to Cecilia, wondering what she's doing outside. He tells her that he's exploring the city with Makana and invites her to join them, leaving Yoki entirely out of the equation. Cecilia tries to explain she's hanging out with Yoki, so Yuga finally agrees to let him come along as well. Then, he drags her over to the accessories shop. While Makana feels upset that her first date got ruined, she asks Yoki if he's also on a date with Cecilia, so he nods. Hearing this, Makana orders Yoki to woo Cecilia so she can finally get Yuga's attention in her place. While Yoki thinks Makana is being considerate of him, she quickly stops that train of thought by calling him an ugly loser. Then, she heads inside the accessory shop, while Yoki wonders if Yuga is still trying to Rizz Cecilia even though she declined his marriage proposal. Angered by Yuga's shameless advances, he heads inside, determined to protect his beloved. After going in, Yoki asks Cecilia if she'd like a present. She feels bad about burdening him, but Yoki feels like making the date special for her. Nearby, Yuga notices Yoki talking to Cecilia, so he rudely butts in. As Yuga leaves to buy his own accessory for Cecilia, Yoki picks out a pretty necklace for her. Cecilia feels happy to receive the pretty pendant, but soon enough, Yuga returns to ruin her fun. He shows her the most expensive accessory from the store, which isn't nearly enough to catch her attention. Yuga then removes Cecilia's hat without her permission to make her wear the accessory, which causes everyone in the store to notice her identity. In an instant, a huge crowd gathers all around the hero's party, kicking Yoki to the side like a piece of trash. Then, the crowd runs out of the shop, taking Cecilia away with it. Yoki gets up and tries to track it down, but he runs into another hero getting harassed by a crowd of girls. Realizing it's Raven, the swordsman from Yuga's party, Yoki wonders if he should help him. He suddenly points to a random direction and acts like he saw Hero there. So all of the love-struck girls leave Raven and rush over there instead. Once the girls have left, Yoki drags Raven over to a quiet alley. Since the handsome knight remains silent, Yoki wonders if he doesn't want to talk. He turns around to leave, but Raven finally calls out to him with an embarrassed look. Hearing his soft voice, Yoki wonders if the dashing knight feels shy about speaking with it. Raven nods and asks Yoki if he also thinks his voice isn't manly. However, Yoki refuses to laugh at him, saying that everyone has a part of themselves they don't like. Raven feels surprised that Yoki's so considerate while he turns around to search for Cecilia. Seeing his kind nature, Raven Raven asks if Yoki would like to become his friend. Yoki feels surprised by the sudden offer, while Raven starts getting cold feet. Thankfully, Yoki accepts his offer, but he quickly turns around to search for his missing date. After a while of searching, Yoki wonders if Cecilia is okay by herself in the big city. Meanwhile, Cecilia also searches for him, stumbling upon a lost child. After healing the child's injury, Cecilia wonders where his parents are. The little boy starts crying because he lost his mom, but his voice attracts Yoki from nearby. Soon, he shows up and acts like a hero to save the day. Cecilia feels surprised, but she scolds him for making reckless promises. Watching a grown man get schooled, the little boy starts laughing at Yoki's misery. Afterward, Yoki starts searching for the boy's mom with Cecilia. While searching, Yoki wonders if Cecilia should head home in case another crowd attacks her. She shakes her head, saying that they'll deal with the crowds if they cause any issues again. Yoki agrees and keeps moving, while Cecilia sneezes in perfectly hot weather. Elsewhere, Yuga keeps trying to find Cecilia. Makana asks him to go home, but Yuga shakes her off and runs away to look for Cecilia. As he leaves, Makana feels upset that he showed her the cold shoulder despite being on a date with her. Soon, Yuga spots Cecilia standing with Yoki, and he turns around to tell Makana. However, he feels surprised after seeing that she's nowhere to be seen. The next day, Yoki learns that Cecilia collapsed on the way home. Celia explains that her daughter caught a horrible cold since she was already tired, but Yuga's stunt caused her to be exhausted from dealing with the crowd. Celia also notes that Yuga kept forcing his way into Cecilia's affairs, so she sent Sophia to dispose of him. While Yoki feels surprised that Sophia can casually toss the hero away, Celia praises him for helping her daughter so much. She allows Yoki to visit Cecilia in her room, so Sophia takes her there. After she knocks on Cecilia's door, the young girl feels embarrassed since she doesn't want Yoki to see her room. Sophie reassures Cecilia that she hid away her stuffed teddy bear, which completely kills all her aura points. Then, Yoki finally heads inside, flustered to be in a girl's room. There, he finds Cecilia on her bed and sits down to speak with her. Yoki thinks it's his fault she got sick since he showed her around so many places. Although Cecilia doesn't mind, she plays along and tells him that he needs to compensate her by taking her out on an even better date next time. Excited, Yoki gets up and starts bragging like he's some kind of hero who'll sweep her off her feet. Watching him yap like an idiot, Cecilia also starts laughing along with his act, which pisses Sophia off. The maid quickly barges in and tosses Yoki away, claiming that he'll worsen Cecilia's condition by making her laugh so much. Afterward, Yoki starts heading back home when he notices Raven walking towards Cecilia's mansion. Yoki wonders what's up, so Raven explains he wants to confess to a girl. Raven reveals that this girl is kind enough to compliment his soft voice, so he feels attracted to her. However, he doesn't feel confident in his abilities, so Yoki reassures him that a tall and handsome man would be fine no matter what. With the confidence boost from Yoki, Raven agrees and heads towards Cecilia's mansion. Watching him walk away, Yoki finally starts wondering which kind girl Raven has feelings for, before realizing that the one he plans to confess to is Cecilia, meaning Yoki may have just gotten another rival in love. As soon as the realization kicks in, Yoki starts panicking that he shot himself in the foot. He tries to delude himself into believing Cecilia would reject Raven, but then remembers that they were both teammates in the hero's party. In Yoki's overthinking brain, Cecilia and Raven might already have experienced some romantic escapades during their adventures, so he thinks Raven could easily run away with his girl. Fortunately for Yoki, Raven soon returns, obviously dejected after his crush totally denied him. Yoki wonders what happened, so Raven apologizes to him for wasting the chance he got from his motivation. He then leaves the area without saying anything else, but Yoki remains worried about Cecilia. He soon returns to the mansion and summons Sophia, who gets suspicious that he's already back. Yoki acts like he's just concerned about Cecilia's health, but Sophia simply tells him to scram. In the end, he comes clean and asks Sophia what Raven said to her, so she reveals that he asked to meet with Happiness. Hearing this, Yoki realizes that Raven is crushing on a different girl, and wonders why Happiness rejected him so outright. Curious, he visits Happiness and asks her about her chat with Raven. Yoki explains that Raven is his friend, so Happiness gets surprised and explains that there's no way she can be with him. Yoki thinks she completely hates the guy, but Happiness shakes her head and leaves without an explanation. Later that evening, Yoki goes to Duke and seek to ask for their thoughts on Raven. Both of them question why Yoki would let someone as low below as a former member of the hero's party meet their friend. Yoki points out he's not the one who hooked them up, prompting Duke to explain that Happiness is hesitant due to some personal matters. Since harpies are a beautiful race, they are often hunted by humans for their bodies and feathers. In the past, Duke also saved Happiness from some humans, which is why she joined the Demon Lord's army. However, he thinks that she must be traumatized from that experience and unwilling to get involved with humans again. Still, Seek doesn't think she hates humans since she literally chose to work in Celia's mansion as a maid. Yoki agrees with Seek and points out that Raven is also a good guy, so Happiness has no reason to be wary of him. The following day, Yoki makes his way to the Adventurers Guild and notices that Clayman is oddly nowhere to be seen. A receptionist spots him and asks if he's searching for the Vice Guild Master. He asks who she means, so she explains that Clayman is actually the guild's Vice Master. Seeing Yoki's shocked reaction, the receptionist agrees that the lazy Clayman does not live up to his reputation. Yoki then asks her why Clayman is absent, so she explains that the reason is too embarrassing to say out loud. She quietly reveals that Clayman is in the hospital, so Yoki quickly leaves to check in on him. When Yoki steps into Clayman's room, Clayman expresses his gratitude for the considerate visit. Seeing the numerous bandages covering Clayman from head to toe, Yoki can't help but ask how he ended up so badly hurt. Clayman says it happened because his wife was angry, leaving Yoki confused about how that led to such severe injuries. Clayman reveals that it was his marriage anniversary the other day, but he couldn't decide which gift to buy for his wife. In the end, he ended up wasting so much time at the shop that it turned night. As soon as he returned home, Clayman's wife thought he had forgotten all about her gift and beat him up in her rage. Hearing this, Yoki feels shocked that an angry woman can cause so much pain and realizes why the guild receptionist wanted to keep this embarrassing event a secret. He then asks Clayman how his wife got the strength to rearrange his bones, so Clayman explains she used to be an ranked adventurer. He also reveals that he was an ranked adventurer who partnered with his wife on a party known as the Invincible Couple. After that, Yoki offers to use his magic to heal Clayman, but Clayman turns him down, saying he'd rather recover under his wife's care. Although Clayman's overly romantic attitude makes Yoki uncomfortable, his wife soon walks into the room. As soon as he spots her, Yoki realizes that Clayman is actually married to Sophia. Clayman also jumps in joy at the sight of his dear wife, but she kicks him for daring to call her honey. Sophia then tends to Clayman before leaving the room to talk with Yoki. She thanks him for visiting her husband, so Yoki tells her it's not a big deal. He then wonders how Cecilia is doing, so Sophia explains she's doing fine. Yoki wonders if he can visit Cecilia, but she informs him that she's currently out of the house for business. Although Yoki feels dejected, he changes the topic and asks Sophia if girls really like presents so much. Sophia instantly realizes Clayman tattled on her, but Yoki reassures her he's just asking for honest love advice. Sophia nods and tells him a girl will appreciate any gift as long as he puts some thought into it. Yoki thanks Sophia for the help and runs off. On his way back, he feels envious of Clayman and Sophia's married life. Yoki wonders if Cecilia would be a submissive housewife to him once they get married, or if she'll be an outgoing businesswoman who brings the bread home. Then, he snaps himself out his delusions and walks into Raven's room. There, he finds Raven collapsed on the bed like a petrified statue. Yoki tries calling out to Raven, but the poor man fails to notice him from the intensity of his grief. Yoki then speaks out Happiness's name, which finally catches Raven's attention. Raven is curious about how Yoki knows her, so Yoki tells her that they've been friends for a long time. After that, he asks Raven how things went when she confessed her feelings to Happiness. Raven explains that he met Happiness for the first time when he was patrolling the city. Back then, she was getting harassed by some goons in an alley, so Raven jumped in to protect her. Seeing his reputation as a heroic knight, the goons quickly left the girl alone. Happiness thanked Raven for protecting her, so he told her not to worry about it. As soon as he said it, Raven realized he just exposed his soft voice in the heat of the moment. To his shock, Happiness instantly gave him a compliment on his voice. Raven told her that his voice didn't match his looks at all, but Happiness still thought he was blessed to have it. This gave him the confidence that she might like him, so he visited her at Celia's mansion afterward. Yoki agrees and mentions that he's familiar with Cecilia as well. That piques Raven's interest, so Yoki goes on to recount his entire love story with her. After hearing it all, Raven ends up respecting Yoki for abandoning his homeland solely to stay by the side of the woman he loves. Seeing how hard Yoki is working to become worthy of Cecilia, Raven feels like he's a complete failure who did nothing for the girl he likes. Yoki reassures him that it's not his fault since happiness isn't good with love. He also informs Raven about happiness's past trauma, which probably caused her to reject him. Raven comes to the conclusion that he rushed his confession to someone like her, but Yoki immediately disagrees. He reassures Raven that he's still got a chance and drags him to the market to buy a gift for happiness. Later, in the couple's gift shop, Raven starts to feel uneasy, worrying that people might mistake him and Yoki for a gay couple. Yoki thinks it'll be fine and purchases the pretty necklace he found for Cecilia. Then, he notices Raven trying to pick a gift for happiness and suggests buying a pretty trinket for her. Raven wonders if she'll even like it, so Yoki reassures him she will. Raven then asks if happiness will even accept a gift from a guy she just rejected, so Yoki parrots Sophia's advice to him. He also explains that the trinket matches happiness's style, so Raven finally decides to buy it. As Raven completes the purchase, Makana immediately notices him and walks over. She starts judging both lonely boys for visiting the market without a girl, so Yoki proudly declares that they're actually there to buy presents for the girls they like. Before Raven can silence him, he leaks the secret to Makana, who starts hounding Raven to ask who he likes. He turns away from her, so Makana feels guilty about making him uncomfortable. She then apologizes to Raven for making him insecure, since she laughed at his cute voice the first time they met. Suddenly, she remembers that the boys can give her some new gossip material, so she drags them out to interrogate them about their crushes. Unfortunately for Makana, both boys ignore her and focus on enjoying their meals. Knowing that Yoki will react, she brings up Cecilia's name. Sure enough, Yoki stops eating like the simpleton he is. Makana asks him how things are going with her, and Yoki admits that he hasn't made any real progress. He then reveals that Cecilia has given him a chance, but she's still receiving marriage proposals one after another. Makana nods, knowing that even Yuga jumped in to propose to her. Yoki tells her that Cecilia rejected him, so Makana explains that the toxic hero used to annoy both girls all the time. Aside from acting like a total pervert, Yuga would also let all his fangirls run over him. This would cause their party to get delayed during their normal days, which left Cecilia completely enraged. After that, she developed a completely negative impression of Yuga's frivolous nature. Makana warns Yoki to remain careful around Cecilia, or else he'll also get blacklisted. Yoki agrees, so she moves on to interrogating Raven about his love. However, Yoki stops her, saying that he won't let an evil vixen like her meddle in his friend's pure affairs. Makana gets offended and points out that she was just trying to help. Then, she also admits that she wanted some love advice herself. Raven feels surprised, but Makana thinks it's not a good idea to consult two clueless idiots like them. However, Raven thinks Yoki is a good person for this stuff, so she decides to trust him. Makana explains that she's worried about Yuga since he started hating her after a certain event. Before revealing what happened, she asks Yoki to keep the matter a secret. Once he agrees, Makana explains that sometime in the past, the hero's party kept getting wrecked in the Demon Lord's castle. Shocked, Yoki acts like he's hearing this for the first time. Makana confesses that her party didn't even make it to the Demon Lord himself since they kept getting demolished by one of his soldiers. Each time the demon defeated their party, he would politely return them to a human village. Every time the heroes woke up, they would lie to the villagers, claiming that they left the Demon Lord's palace early just to prepare themselves and be safe. Although the villagers believed them and provided the party with food and resources, they started running out of supplies as the heroes came back beaten up every other day. Just when it started to become unbearable for the hero party to keep up their lies, the demon offered to let them progress as long as they left Cecilia behind. Back then, Makana convinced her party to agree since she wanted to complete the mission and protect Yuga's reputation. Ever since then, he has hated her for leaving their precious teammate behind. Even though Yuga never mentioned this event, Makana knows he secretly holds a grudge against her. She asks Yoki if he'd ever forgive a friend for leaving their partner behind, but Raven interjects, saying Makana isn't at fault. While Makana feels surprised by Raven's voice, he tells her he's responsible as well since he couldn't even offer his opinion at the time. As both of the heroes feel guilty, Yoki knows he can't blame Makana since he's the one who asked the party to leave their friend behind. He then asks her if she has apologized to Cecilia. Makana admits that she hasn't, believing it would be too uncomfortable to do so now. Yoki questions if she's really fine with letting things stay awkward forever, which makes her realize her mistake. Yoki asks Mikana to talk to her friends for the sake of their friendship, so she agrees and thanks him for the advice. After Mikana leaves, Raven also gets the courage to talk to Happiness. He visits Celia's mansion with Yoki, but both of them get stopped by Duke. He asks Yoki who Raven is and gets upset that he's returning after Happiness already rejected him. Yoki attempts to explain that Duke is just worried about his friend, but Duke continues pressing Raven. Since Raven stays quiet, Duke assumes he's deliberately ignoring him. Finally, Duke thinks he's just a coward, so Raven admits he doesn't have a game plan for talking to Happiness. Surprised, Duke wonders why he doesn't want to protect her or do something gentlemanly. Raven shakes his head since that's not what he had in mind, so Duke tells him to just go and say what he wants. Once Raven leaves, Duke explains to Yoki that he was just testing Raven's sincerity. Meanwhile, Raven apologizes to Happiness for catching her off guard the other day. He offers her the gift he bought and asks if they can be friends. Surprised, Happiness thinks about it and accepts Raven's gift. She agrees to becoming friends, so Raven looks forward to getting closer to his beloved crush. A week later, Yoki is still lying in his bed when Seek pleads with him to come along and visit Cecilia's mansion together. Yoki refuses to go since Cecilia hasn't been home the entire week. Frustrated, he explains that the entire Heroes party has been busy with chores for the past few days. Cecilia herself has been going from town to town healing people, while Raven has been working as a knight captain. On the other hand, Mikana is working hard as a royal magician, while Yuga is out exterminating demons. With all of the heroes going their own ways, Yoki feels bad for letting them defeat the Demon Lord and breaking up their group. While he sulks away about his feelings, Seek jumps on his chest in frustration. He complains to Yoki that Duke left their place to work as a royal knight. And just then, someone knocks on the door. Soon, Happiness comes in and informs Yoki that Cecilia will return home during the afternoon. Yoki instantly gets up, gaining back all his lost willpower. He then looks at the gift necklace he bought, hoping to please Cecilia with it. A little while later, Yoki takes a stroll in the town and wonders what he should do before his meeting. As he walks, busy in thought, a creepy old fortune teller tells him that he'll have the worst luck for the day. Yoki refuses to believe her, thinking that any day he meets his crush has to be the best day ever. After some time, he visits a bakery, where the store owner's zesty brother greets him. From the bakery, Yoki buys some cupcakes for Cecilia and leaves. As he makes his way through the streets, he pulls out one of the cupcakes and takes a bite. With Yoki's attention fully on the food, he ends up crashing into a big man, who immediately gets upset with him. Yoki apologizes to the angry man and leaves, but then he barely avoids stepping into dog poop. After moving on from the poop, he wonders if he really has been cursed with bad luck for the whole day. As Yoki continues walking, he bumps into a kid. This time, he knocks over the kid's meat skewer, so he has to buy him another one. The kid thanks Yoki and leaves, but then, a pickpocket bumps into him and steals his money. Luckily, Yoki catches the thief in the act, so he turns around to chase after him. Armed with his demonic speed, he easily chases down the poor man and kicks him into a wall. After Yoki recovers his money from the pickpocket, Yuga somehow appears at the scene. He accuses Yoki of beating up a poor man and stealing his wallet, so Yoki tries to explain that he was only taking back his own money. Unfortunately, the hero refuses to believe him and starts swinging at him with his sword. Yoki avoids all of Yuga's attacks, but his sword cuts his money bag and wastes all his coins. Yoki tries to flee from the hero, but he ends up surrounded by a group of royal knights who take the hero's side and send him to prison. Sitting in jail, Yoki wonders where he went wrong in life. Suddenly, Duke approaches his cell and mocks him for getting arrested. Yoki whines and moans that he didn't do anything, so Duke reassures him that he knows. He explains that Raven is personally investigating the matter since he believes in Yoki, so he'll soon be released after the details are confirmed. Yoki heaves a sigh of relief, but he also realizes that Duke is referring to Raven with a casual tone. He scolds Duke for not respecting his captain, but Duke tells him that he won't take anyone other than him as a true leader. Before long, an elf named Irene arrives and requests that Duke return to his duties. Although Yoki is taken aback by the sight of an elf, Duke asks Irene for the keys to Yoki's cell. He then asks whether Raven has verified Yoki's innocence, so Irene nods and gives him the keys. She also reveals that Yuga wants to apologize to Yoki since he falsely accused him and caused him so much trouble. So after Yoki leaves the jail, jail, he goes out to a fancy restaurant at Yuga's invitation. There, he finds a huge feast laid out for him with Yuga waiting for him. As the hero eagerly invites Yoki to eat his fill, he struggles with his brilliant smile before sitting down to eat. Soon, Yoki polishes off the entire feast with Yuga and Raven. After they finish the food, Yuga explains that he didn't know Yoki was Raven's friend. Meanwhile, Raven puts down an angry note for Yuga, who reveals that he got chewed out worse than a dog's toy for his dumb mistake. Then, the hero suddenly changes the topic and recalls that Yoki was hanging out with Cecilia a week ago. He asks Yoki about his relationship with her, so Yoki tells him that they're just friends. Yuga nods, gaining newfound respect for Yoki's ability to befriend the ice-cold priestess. Suddenly, he asks Yoki for some advice, which leaves him confused. Yuga explains that he wants to get closer to Cecilia, but Yoki doesn't feel like helping out his rival in love. He acts like he doesn't know much about Cecilia since he just became friends with her, and points to Raven. Raven refuses to talk, so Yuga reminds him that he doesn't need to hide his voice in front of his friends. Even so, Raven remains silent and advises them to speak with Makana instead. Yuga refuses, saying that Makana hates Cecilia. Yoki wonders if Makana ever admitted to hating Cecilia, so Yuga explains that she was willing to abandon her in a dangerous situation. While Yoki and Raven are surprised, Yuga thinks that Cecilia was lucky she made it out alive despite being abandoned because of her friend. Suddenly, Yoki interrupts Yuga's story and wonders if Makana was the only reason Cecilia was left behind. Yuga gets angry since he thinks Yoki wasn't there, so Yoki explains he heard the story from Makana herself. He reminds Yuga that it was their powerful enemy demon who suggested leaving Cecilia behind, not Makana. Yuga points out that he was refusing the demon's offer, but Makana talked him into accepting it. He insists that she acted solely out of hatred, but Yoki explains that Makana actually felt even more guilt over him for having to make such a difficult decision. He reveals that she even cried from guilt, which shocks Yuga. However, Yuga refuses to believe it, so Yoki reminds him that he made the final call to agree with Makana's suggestion. Finally, Yuga goes silent, and Yoki asks him if he still thinks it's all Makana's fault. Yuga struggles to accept reality, feeling like he's the one responsible for abandoning their friend. Although Raven tries to comfort Yuga, Yoki reminds him that he's the party leader. He thinks Yuga is being a coward by pushing the blame for his choice onto his teammates, and tells him that he's a pathetic excuse for a hero. Yoki's harsh words bring Yuga to tears, and he finally feels like he went too far. After some time, Yuga calms down and apologizes for losing his cool. He explains that Makana is actually his childhood friend, so they've always been together. Recalling their time together, Yuga notes that Makana has always been a hardworking girl who supported him in everything he did. Thinking back, he remembers how she would scold him whenever he made a mistake. Now that Yuga realizes he put all the blame for hurting Cecilia on her, he feels like he betrayed their friendship. As he wonders how he can atone for his mistake, Yoki suggests letting Makana scold him as she has always done. He explains that a person would only scold their friend if they truly cared about them, so Yuga is lucky to have Makana. After hearing his suggestion, Yuga regains some hope and thanks Yoki for the help. While Yoki feels amused by the hero's childish antics, Raven secretly tells him that he has always been like this. Afterward, they leave the restaurant, and Yoki turns around to visit Cecilia. However, Yuga stops him and asks him to visit Makana's house with him for moral support. Soon, Yoki gets dragged all the way to Makana's house, where Yuga thanks him for tagging along. He then enters the house alone while Yoki and Raven wait outside. While both boys wish the hero good luck, Yuga manages to barge into Makana's room as she's changing clothes. The poor girl's terrified screams ring out to the surroundings, announcing to both Yoki and Raven that Yuga messed up yet another encounter. However, Yuga completely ignores the inappropriate setting and grabs Makana's shoulders to apologize. While she remains completely stunned, Yuga admits that he has done something terrible to her. Makana points out that he's currently in the middle of doing terrible things anyway, but Yuga keeps going on. He finally admits that he was wrong for putting the blame of abandoning Cecilia on her shoulders, so Makana quiets down. Yuga then sincerely apologizes to her for his mistake, which leaves her flustered. As Makana wonders why Yuga's feelings changed, he suddenly asks her to scold him as punishment for his crimes. The sudden tone shift completely ruins Makana's mood, and she starts laughing maniacally. As Yuga backs off cautiously, she points out just how bold he is to randomly barge into into her room and demand a scolding, accusing him of being a masochist. She grabs her magic wand and starts zapping Yuga to punish him. Yuga lets out his tortured screams, and Yoki leaves him in Mikana's hands. Then, as he runs back home, he encounters the old fortune teller again. This time, Yoki confidently tells her that he doesn't believe in fortune telling. After he leaves, the fortune teller quietly looks at her crystal ball and wonders what good deed he performed to suddenly boost his luck. As Yoki keeps going, he runs into the bakery's real owner, who apologizes to him for her brother's awful service and gives him another bag of cupcakes for free. He then encounters some mysterious bodyguards escorting a butler and a young boy. The butler thanks Yoki for helping his young master, so he recalls buying a new skewer for him. While Yoki is surprised, the butler apologizes for letting his young master cause trouble for him and offers him a fresh bag of skewers as thanks for his kindness. Now armed with a fresh bag of goodies, Yoki finally makes it to Cecilia's mansion. There, Happiness greets him in a foul mood and wonders why he's so late. Yoki sheepishly apologizes to her before going to Cecilia's room. There, he gives her the food bags, so Cecilia decides to make some tea with them. Yoki wonders why she isn't getting a maid to do it, so she proudly brags that she can make her own tea and food. Over tea, Yoki tells Cecilia about Happiness and Raven's new friendship. He also reveals that he became friends with the other hero party members and hopes that they can get along. As Cecilia tries to respond, suddenly, Yuga breaks in through the door. He runs inside and apologizes for his mistake all those days ago, before asking her to scold him as punishment. Mikana follows suit and knocks Yuga out for his stupid demand, so he finally notices that Cecilia is entertaining Yoki as her guest. Mikana apologizes to Cecilia for interrupting her meeting, and Raven also comes in, so Yoki leaves to give the heroes some privacy. Then, Mikana apologizes to Cecilia for abandoning her, which leaves her flustered. Raven and Yuga also step forward and admit that they're equally responsible for leaving their friend behind. Cecilia reassures the heroes that she has forgiven them, pointing out that it wasn't easy to face the Demon Lord without her healing powers. Back then, as soon as Yuga defeated the Demon Lord with his Excalibur sword, Mikana instantly turned around and started running back to where Cecilia was. Halfway down the corridor, she ran into Cecilia, who was also running to meet up with the party. Although Mikana tried to speak, she collapsed into Cecilia's arms from exhaustion. As she finishes recalling these events, Cecilia points out that Mikana had her friend in mind even after the life and death battle with the Demon Lord. She thinks that the heroes' party only made a tough choice to save the world, so she doesn't blame them for leaving her behind. Finally, Mikana feels relieved and thanks Cecilia for forgiving her. Then, the other two also chime in, and all the heroes start laughing as they resolve their differences. Afterward, Cecilia goes out for a walk with Yoki. She wonders if he is behind the hero's apology, so Yoki admits it was him. He explains that he simply wanted the heroes to get back together since it was his fault they broke up in the first place. Cecilia thanks Yoki for being so thoughtful, feeling happy that he's getting closer to her friends and family. As Yoki accepts her thanks, he takes the chance to give her his present. Cecilia takes the present from him and opens it up, so Yoki reminds her that he wanted to buy it during their date. He hesitantly asks Cecilia if she'll accept the gift, and she smiles and promises to cherish it forever. Hearing this, Yoki's smile brightens tenfold, and he starts thanking Cecilia for being so kind, even though he was the one who bought the gift. A few days later, Yoki and Seek travel with Cecilia towards a village struck by disaster. As they sit in the carriage together, Yoki feels upset that Seek tagged along as the third wheel, since he wanted to spend some alone time with Cecilia. Cecilia apologizes to both boys for dragging them along, but suddenly, the carriage shakes from a bump in the road. This causes Cecilia to retch, so Yoki gets worried for her. She explains that the lengthy journey is making her feel nauseous, so Seek offers her a secret potion created with his pixie techniques. After drinking the potion, Cecilia feels better, so Seek starts smugly bragging about his own usefulness to Yoki. Watching the two of them bicker together, Cecilia feels happy that she'll have some good company during her mission. After some time, they arrive at the village, destroyed and damaged by a bandit attack. The chief approaches the group and greets Cecilia, but he wonders who her companions are. She explains that both Yoki and Seek are excellent healers who have volunteered to help, so the old man trusts them and takes them all to the village shelter. There, the three of them work together to heal all of the injured people. While working, Yoki observes Cecilia smiling as she heals a villager. As he feels happy that she takes so much pride in hard work. The village chief shares the same sentiment. Yoki appreciates the old man's good taste, but he changes the topic to the injured people. He wonders how none of the villagers actually died in the assault, so the chief explains that the bandits suddenly escaped during the attack. He reveals that a strange man popped out of nowhere and attacked them, which may have caused the bandits to flee in fear. Yoki feels concerned about the bandit attack, but he notices Cecilia getting exhausted. He walks over to her and asks her to take a break, but she refuses to sit down. Suddenly, Yoki uses a spell to knock her out and force her to rest. As the poor priestess falls asleep, all of the villagers wonder if Yoki attacked her. He quickly explains that he just helped her fall asleep before taking her to a bed. After some time, Cecilia wakes up and realizes what just happened. She glares at Yoki, who quickly realizes he's in trouble. Yoki apologizes to Cecilia for putting her to sleep without her permission, but he thinks he had no choice but to do it for her own sake. He reminds Cecilia that if she kept healing people without any energy, it would have caused damage to her own body instead. Cecilia grows quiet, but she still asks him not to take such drastic measures without anyone's consent. Yoki promises not to do it again, but he points out that there's no need since he already finished healing everyone else. Hearing this, Cecilia smiles and thanks him for the help, which causes Yoki to blush redder than a tomato. Then, the village chief enters the room to check on Cecilia's status. After confirming that she's fine, the chief asks Cecilia if she can help a girl called Teal, who lives on the outskirts of the village. Yoki wonders if Teal was also attacked by the bandits, but the chief shakes his head. However, he still feels worried for her since she is always in bed because of a chronic illness. Cecilia agrees to check on Teal, so they all leave to check on her. Once they arrive at Teal's house, they find her peacefully reading a book on her bed. The young girl is surprised by the sudden company, so Cecilia explains that she's only here to check on her condition. Soon, Teal starts coughing from her illness, so Yoki tells Seek to take care of her. Seek gives her one of his pixie medicines, but Teal hesitates to consume it. Yoki reassures her that Seek is actually pretty capable, even if he looks like an airhead, so Teal finally drinks the medicine. After just a sip, she starts feeling better and thanks Seek for his aid. Teal thinks that her mysterious saviors came because her deity answered her prayers, so Yoki wonders who she's referring to. Teal reveals that there is a statue of the local deity that her villagers worship. Apparently, back when the bandits launched their attack, she was offering some food to the statue. After offering the food, she ended up falling asleep beside the statue, which led her to believe that it had protected her from the bandits. Seek points out that her sleepiness could just be a coincidence because of her illness, but Teal remains firm in her belief. She also narrates a story from her childhood when she was surrounded by a wolf pack. Back then, she saw the demonic statue glow with dark power as it obliterated the wolves surrounding her. While Teal thinks it's her deity, both Yoki and Cecilia feel concerned about this strange demonic power. To change their minds, Teal takes all the kids to the deity's statue. Once everyone gets close, they all realize that the statue represents a fearsome demon. Teal refuses to let them blaspheme against her beloved deity, but she starts coughing again from her condition. As Cecilia helps her walk back home, Yoki continues observing the demon statue. He points out that the statue is actually a gargoyle from back home, and soon, the demon comes to life as if to prove his point. Yoki quickly jumps to avoid the gargoyle's attack and warns Seek to be careful. Meanwhile, Seek kicks the gargoyle from above and takes it down in a single move. Yoki commands the gargoyle to speak, but it refuses to do so and declares that it's ready to die. Seek prepares to fulfill its wish, but Yoki stops him. The gargoyle relaxes as it realizes its life isn't in danger. Yoki points out that he's the one who attacked them first, so the gargoyle apologizes. Yoki accepts his apology, but wonders what the demon is doing in a far-out village. The gargoyle explains that it was created to protect a shrine, but some bandits raided the shrine and looted it. After taking the gargoyle statue with them, the bandits attacked the innocent village on their way back. This caused the gargoyle to fly into a rage and defeat all the bandits attacking it. When the villagers saw the strange demon defeating their attackers, they instantly gave it a place in their village and turned it into their local deity. Ever since then, the villagers slowly forgot about the gargoyle, but Teal kept visiting its statue to clean it up. Since the bandits recently returned to attack the village again, the gargoyle protected Teal as thanks for her care. Yoki realizes that the gargoyle doesn't have any malicious intentions towards the villagers. The gargoyle reassures him that he's only only living by himself without disturbing any of the villagers. After hearing this, Yoki apologizes to the gargoyle for disturbing him before turning to seek for a private conversation. Later that night, Yoki walks back home with Cecilia, who chuckles that Seek went to sleep so soon. In reality, Yoki deliberately sent the pixie back so he could have some alone time with Cecilia. Cecilia notices Yoki deep in thought, so she wonders if he's worried about something. Yoki quickly covers up his real thoughts and claims that he was just thinking about the gargoyle. Cecilia feels hesitant about trusting a demon near the villagers, but Yoki reassures her that the gargoyle has a peaceful personality. After hearing this, Cecilia thinks they don't have to worry about anything else. Yoki nods, but then he realizes he's got nothing else to talk about. He silently looks at Cecilia from the corner of his eye and forgets about his worries for a moment. Suddenly, she trips on a tree root, so Yoki quickly catches her. As he holds Cecilia in his arms, both of them realize how close they've gotten. Flustered, they quickly turn away from each other, and Yoki politely reminds Cecilia to watch her step. Afterward, they continue forward towards the village, where the villagers sound the alarm for yet another bandit attack. As the bandits begin their siege, Yoki and the others appear to take care of them. The bandits don't think much of the kids at first, but when Seek claps a bunch of them without effort, they're all forced to take them seriously. Even Cecilia feels surprised by Seek's strength, so Yoki reminds her that he's his proud servant. He then gets ready to join the fray and takes out another bunch of bandits. Suddenly, a bandit tries to sneak an attack on Cecilia, but Yoki easily spots him and takes him out. Then, the kids notice smoke coming from afar, where the gargoyle statue is located. Yoki sends Seek to check on the gargoyle before turning to face the remaining bandits, seeing that they sent Seek away. The bandits think there's no way the two kids can handle them all. However, Yoki steps up and blows them all away with a powerful tornado spell. After defeating all the bandits, Yoki notices that Seek still hasn't returned, so he heads over to the gargoyle statue with Cecilia to check the situation. There, Teal tries to comfort an injured gargoyle, while a strange man holds Seek by the collar. After seeing Yoki, the man tosses Seek away like a sack of potatoes. As the man arrogantly taunts Yoki, he wonders who this strange person is. Cecilia reveals that the strange man is Miller, a hero of another empire. Yoki is surprised that there's more than one hero. While Seek struggles to get back up, Cecilia tells him to rest and asks what happened, so he explains that he found Miller trying to stab the gargoyle. Although Seek jumped in to protect the gargoyle and Teal, Miller just focused his attacks on him instead. At present, Miller taunts Seek for trying to protect a gargoyle. He starts walking towards the fallen demon, but Yoki stops him. Miller thinks that it's only normal to eliminate a wild demon, but Yoki reminds him that the gargoyle was only protecting an innocent girl. Still, Miller refuses to stop and instead launches an attack on them. Yoki shoots a magic bolt towards Miller, but his sword stops the attack in its tracks. As Yoki is shocked, Cecilia explains that Miller uses a magic eater sword, which has the perfect counter to all his attacks. Miller grins and severs one of the gargoyle's arms, so Cecilia warns him to stop provoking a neighboring nation. However, Miller refuses to quit, saying that he wants a war to break out between their nations so he can enjoy killing enemy soldiers. Cecilia realizes that Miller is a complete monster, and Yoki prepares to defeat them. He summons another magic attack, but Miller easily blocks it. Still, Yoki keeps bombarding the hero with more magic attacks, but he continues to ignore them as he approaches him. As everyone gets worried that Yoki will run out of magic, he casts a powerful blazing plasma spell, which still gets absorbed by Miller's sword. Seeing this, the other kids lose hope, but Yoki continues to attack with his magic. Miller laughs as he blocks the attacks, thinking that Yoki will soon exhaust all his mana. Suddenly, his sword starts cracking, so Yoki points out that the magic weapon has reached its limits. Soon, Miller's sword completely disintegrates, leaving the one-trick pony without his trump card. Yoki then knocks him out with a single punch and starts gloating about his victory. However, Miller secretly throws a fast projectile towards the gargoyle. His attack catches Yoki off guard, so he has no way to defend the demon. Suddenly, Teal jumps in and takes the blow for the demon instead, happy to have helped her savior. Cecilia rushes to heal Teal. While Miller laughs at Yoki for lowering his guard, Yoki turns around to punish him, but Miller shoots an arrow from his bow, which scatters into a massive attack towards his friends. As Yoki blocks the large-scale attack, Miller takes the chance to escape from him. Seeing all his friends injured, Yoki grows furious at himself for getting so cocky and letting the enemy escape. In his rage, he loses control of his emotions, and his body transforms into his true demonic form. As the Yoki turns around, Cecilia feels worried for him. Yoki then flies out into the forest, where he finds Miller stumbling around. Miller senses his presence and turns around to attack, but Yoki appears behind him and takes him down. Then, he declares that Miller's evil crimes have sealed his fate before sending him launching through all the forest's trees. While Miller is shocked by Yoki's incredible strength, he has no time to react as the demon appears behind him again. This time, Yoki punches him in the gut and flies into the air with him. Miller wonders what's going to happen, and he soon feels Yoki's grip tightening around his throat. Thrilled, the hero admires Yoki's desire to kill since he feels the same way. However, his words remind Yoki of Cecilia's face, and he realizes that he doesn't want to be a mindless killer like Miller. Having regained his senses, he drops Miller into a lake after deeming him unworthy of his attention. Afterward, he heads back home in his human form, where he finds Cecilia waiting for him. Cecilia notices some bleeding on Yoki's head and instantly heals him. Seeing that he's back in one piece, she starts crying in relief. The next day, the kids wonder how to heal the gargoyle's limbs. Teal suggests bringing him to Minerva, but Cecilia points out that demons aren't allowed there. Yoki grins and reveals that he transformed the gargoyle into an earth statue, so they can sneak him past security. Later, they head back to Cecilia's house, where Teal starts her career as a maid. Unfortunately, Celia refuses to place the strange gargoyle statue in her house, which completely breaks the young girl's heart. However, since Yoki places the gargoyle into his own room, Teal starts taking time off from her work to visit him, just to serve her dear guardian. One day, as Teal finishes her daily dusting, she starts coughing from her illness. Concerned, Guy the gargoyle asks her to rest. Teal ignores him and instead asks where Yoki is, so Guy reminds her that he just left the house to visit the king. Meanwhile, in the royal palace, the advisor Sylvia announces the king's presence to Yoki and Cecilia. King Darts greets both heroes with an imposing tone, kneeling in front of the monarch. Yoki wonders why all rulers become so haughty after gaining just a little bit of power. Suddenly, Darts gives up on the pretentious acts and starts speaking like a normal person, which shocks Yoki. Although Sylvia tries to make the king speak properly, he refuses to listen to her and sincerely thanks both Yoki and Cecilia for saving Dagaz's village from the evil hero and bandits. The king generously offers a reward to both heroes, but Cecilia refuses it, saying that she was only doing what was right. Meanwhile, Yoki audaciously declares that even the king cannot grant his wish. Shocked, the king wonders if even all of the world's treasures and beautiful women cannot tempt Yoki. Since Yoki confidently refuses, Darts wonders if he's after the throne itself, but Yoki still refuses, which completely stumps him. Finally, Yoki shamelessly declares that he's after Cecilia's hand in marriage, so Darts admits that there's no way he can arrange that. After returning from the palace, Cecilia immediately chews Yoki out for his bold stunt. Although Yoki admits his fault, Celia thinks that he needs to be punished for such an outrageous crime. She suggests banning Yoki from visiting her daughter for a month, but even Cecilia thinks she'll start missing him if he's gone for so long. To appease her daughter, Celia reduces Yoki's sentence to 2 weeks and orders Happiness to kick him out. Happiness drags Yoki out of the room, where he notices Seek from a window. Seeing how sad he looks, Yoki thinks that he's feeling guilty because he couldn't completely stop Miller from hurting Teal. After he finishes his thoughts, Happiness starts dragging him away again and drops him out of the mansion. Back in Yoki's room, Teal snuggles up to Guy, who feels uncomfortable from the unwanted contact. Soon, Happiness brings Yoki over and tosses him near the bed. Then, Teal starts coughing again, so Guy tells her to head home and rest. As Happiness takes Teal away, Guy reminds her to take it easy, but she declares that she'll never get tired of serving her beloved guardian. Afterward, Yoki starts complaining to Guy about his jail time, so Guy suggests trying to win Celia's favor. Inspired by this, Yoki heads to the Adventurers Guild, where he forces Clayman into giving him difficult quests to improve his own rank. 2 weeks later, in Celia's garden, Cecilia absent-mindedly pours out 2 teacups even though she's alone. As she realizes that she accidentally poured an extra cup for Yoki, Celia walks in and teases her for missing her fiancé. Then, Celia sits down to enjoy the tea for herself, and Sophia informs Cecilia that Yoki has been working hard for the past 2 weeks. Back in Yoki's room, he returns to rest after another job well done. As Yoki sits on the bed, Guy asks him for some help. Suddenly, he goes poof in a cloud of smoke and reappears in his full full gargoyle form. Yoki immediately notices that Guy's stone body has started cracking, and Guy tells him that he only has a few days left to live. Yoki wonders why he didn't reveal this sooner, so Guy reminds him that he couldn't have helped him anyway. Then, he explains that he's worried about Teal since he won't be around to look after her. Guy reveals that Teal's condition has gotten much worse over the past few days, so Yoki wonders why Seek was feeling good about her. Still, Guy thinks that she looks much worse than usual, so Yoki reassures him that he'll take care of her. With his assurance, Guy feels relieved and ready to embrace his death. However, Yoki tells him that he'll also fix him no matter what, since he doesn't want to lose a pretty decoration piece. After saying this, Yoki contacts Duke to figure out how to fix Guy. Duke tells him that he only needs some magic ore to repair the gargoyle, so Yoki relaxes and leaves before he can even finish his explanation. Suddenly, Cecilia comes running to Yoki, saying that Teal has suddenly gotten very sick. Yoki follows Cecilia to Teal's room and asks Seek about her condition. Seek explains that he has tried everything, but Teal's fever isn't going down. Yoki asks if he can do something to help, so Seek suggests getting some evening grass to treat her. However, since evening grass doesn't grow in their town, Seek wonders how they'll even find it. Yoki confidently tells him that he'll find the grass somehow, and Cecilia gets up to help him. Yoki then remembers that he also needs to find magic ore for Guy. Hearing Guy's name, Teal gets worried for him, but Seek reminds her to remain in bed. He tells Yoki to go ahead, so he heads out of the room with Cecilia. Before they can leave the mansion, the two of them encounter Celia in the halls. Both Yoki and Cecilia feel worried that Celia will punish them for meeting up, but Celia knows they're only trying to save Teal's life. A little while later, both heroes visit the Adventurers Guild, where they learn that the guild has run out of both magic ore and evening grass. While the kids wonder what to do next, Clayman comes in with a commission of his own. He asks Yoki to help him, but Yoki refuses since he doesn't have time for the mission. However, Clayman tells him that the commissions target lives in a magic ore mine, so they can find both the magic ore and the rare evening grass, which grows in energy-dense areas. After hearing this, Yoki accepts Clayman's commission, and he heads out with him on a carriage to the magic mines. 2 days later, their carriage finally gets close to the magic mines. Inside the carriage, Cecilia thanks Sophia for joining them on their mission. After some more time, they finally arrive in a city close to the mines, where Sophia tells everyone to get some rest. Yoki wonders why they aren't immediately heading in, so Clayman explains that the mine monsters are exceptionally powerful during nighttime. Yoki wonders if their target is a dangerous creature, so Clayman explains that it's a mutated rock monster that has absorbed the energy from the magic ores and gained immunity to magic attacks. While Yoki recalls the magic immunity from Miller's sword, Clayman also explains that their client has asked them to preserve the rock monster's skin. As a result, although they cannot kill the monster with brute force, they can still restrain it using magic binding. The next day, everyone prepares to explore the dungeon after a full night of rest. Cecilia wonders if Sophia will fight in her maid outfit, so she explains that her maid outfit is custom made for combat. Sophie then shyly reveals that Clayman prefers to see her in the maid costume, before they all head into the mines together. After some exploration, they arrive in the mine's depths, where they find the gluttonous rock monster going to town on some innocent magic ores. Noticing the intruders, the monster leaves its big meal unfinished and hurls a rock towards Cecilia. Yoki protects Cecilia, so the monster shifts its attention to Sophia. After she jumps out of the way, Clayman uses his magic to create paper puppets that slash away the incoming debris. Then, Yoki launches a magic attack at the monster, but it only laughs in his face. As Clayman reminds Yoki not to damage the monster's skin, the monster roars and starts walking towards the party. This time, Yoki uses some earth magic to stop the monster from moving, while Cecilia binds it in one spot with magic chains. Infuriated, the monster breaks free of the chains and starts hacking away at the ice before breaking out and attacking the party again. Since their attacks aren't working, Yoki asks Clayman if he has a plan to defeat the rock monster. Clayman explains that they need to restrict the monster properly, which will give Sophia the chance to enter the monster's body under his paper puppet's protection. Yoki wonders if Clayman is comfortable about sending his wife into such a dangerous place, but Clayman is confident in Sophia's abilities. Yoki nods, this time using a stronger ice wall to freeze the rock monster's legs. Cecilia also chimes in and uses her chain to bind it once again. With the monster restrained, Sophia jumps inside it and enters enters its stomach. As the monster struggles against the bindings, parts of its body get chipped and fall off, which turn into several mini-golems. As the mini-golems rush towards the party, Clayman asks Yoki and Cecilia to continue restraining the rock monster. Cecilia nods and continues to bind it, while Yoki tries to destroy the mini-golems with an offensive spell, much like their father. The mini-golems also resist his magic attack and shake it off. Finally, Yoki resorts to punching the golems, but one of them grazes Clayman's leg. Yoki reminds Clayman to protect himself, but Clayman keeps his focus on shielding Sophia with his puppets. Then, the rock monster breaks free of the binds again and knocks Cecilia away. It walks towards her to land the finishing blow, but suddenly, something inside the monster's belly starts struggling. After Sophia turns the monster's guts into a ground paste, it collapses lifelessly and she comes out of its mouth. Despite his earlier confidence, Clayman rushes to check on Sophia and hugs her tightly, while Yoki and Cecilia admire their loving relationship. Sophia reminds Clayman that they still need to search for the evening grass. As they all remember their original goal, they enter the dungeon's final room, where they find a full patch of blooming evening grass. Afterward, they head out of the dungeon, and Clayman tells everyone that they'll return home the next day since it's dangerous to be outside at night. Although Yoki tries to protest, Cecilia tells him to listen to Clayman. Still, when it's time to sleep, Yoki gets up and quietly slips out of the room. Outside, he is surprised to see Cecilia, who knew he'd try sneaking out anyway. She gives him a pouch of evening grass and tells him to return home. Yoki wonders how she knew, but Cecilia tells him to hurry back for their friends. He transforms into his demon form and flies off back home. Afterward, Yoki gives the grass to Seek before visiting Guy in his own room. Since Guy remains unresponsive, Yoki wonders if it's too late to save him. However, the gargoyle soon opens his eyes and asks him if Teal is okay. Yoki reassures him that she's fine and gives him some magic ore to eat. Guy hesitates since he doesn't think the ore will heal him, but Yoki forces him to eat it anyway. Yoki reminds Teal that he needs to be strong for Teal's sake, which finally gives him the motivation to live. He quickly absorbs the power from all of the magic ore and restores his body before immediately flying off to Teal's room. There, he wakes up the sleeping girl to check on her. When Teal wakes up, Guy finally feels relieved that she's okay. Outside the room, Yoki sighs as he realizes he still needs to fly all the way back to Clayman and the others. Then, Guy turns back and thanks Seek for taking care of Teal, which brings tears to his face. While Yoki pats Seek on the head, Teal notices that Guy's arm has regrown, so he reassures her that he's recovered. The next morning, Yoki departs with Clayman and the others in their carriage, resting his face on Cecilia's lap. Clayman wonders why he's being so lazy, but Cecilia tells him that she's just giving him a reward for all his hard work. A few days later, on the outskirts of town, three shady figures stand on an inconspicuous rooftop during the rain. The leader releases a magical book into the air, which opens up and reveals an ominous eye, while the clouds thunder in the backdrop. The next morning, Yoki walks through town, frustrated that he can't see Cecilia because she's too busy to meet him. While he's walking down a street, he encounters Clayman, who is shopping. Yoki wonders what he's trying to buy, so Clayman explains that he was looking for a wedding anniversary gift for Sophia. After hearing this, Yoki generously joins him on the hunt for a good gift. After looking around, he finds a cute pair of cat ears and suggests buying them. Yoki points out that the ears would go well with Sophia's maid outfit, but Clayman screams that he's not a furry. Refusing to buy the cat ears, Clayman explains that he already has the gift he wanted, so Yoki turns around to find something for himself. Soon, he spots a black hero uniform, which immediately grabs his interest. Yoki buys the black costume and quickly puts it on, acting like he has become Superman. Watching him act like a child, Clayman wonders if Yoki is serious about the hero act. Somehow, Yoki actually stays serious and orders Clayman to fetch him some difficult commissions to challenge his own abilities. Sometime later, they both enter the Adventurers Guild, where Clayman introduces the Black Yoki as an old friend. Although the receptionist feels weirded out by Yoki's weird getup, she trusts Clayman's judgment and offers to give him some ranked quests. Yoki tells her that he can handle all of the ranked quests she has at once, which leaves her completely shocked. Soon after, he leaves to hunt a black dragon in a distant forest, after obliterating the poor reptile. Yoki returns to the city and gives the dragon's heart to a man for medical treatment. After that, he goes on to complete 2 more quests. Finally, Yoki is left with the last ranked quest on his list. Later that night, outside a warehouse, a strange hooded boy knocks out the guards with his magic book. After the guards are unconscious, the young man, called Envy, along with his 2 partners, Heartburn and Jealousy, both get ready to eliminate their target inside the building. Soon, they reach the warehouse's depths, where they corner the poor owner. As the man trembles for his life, the thieves declare that they'll seize all of his goods. Before they can begin their operation, Yoki appears in his mysterious black suit to save the day. He jumps down in front of them from a box of goods and warns the thieves to surrender quietly. Of course, Envy doesn't take the budget Batman too seriously and orders Jealousy and Heartburn to take care of him. Both thieves pull out their weapons and rush to attack Yoki. Heartburn tries to plunge at Yoki from above, but he dodges her attack, causing her to destroy a crate in the process. After strange heart-shaped candies spill out of the box, Yoki charges a lightning spell to retaliate. He launches the lightning bolt towards the thieves, who quickly dodge the attack. However, Yoki immediately follows it up with another lightning bolt, which puts Heartburn out of commission. After taking her down, Yoki defeats Jealousy as well. With both of his comrades down, Envy steps in to handle the fight himself. He uses his magic book to attack Yoki with a tornado spell, but Yoki pushes it back with his own lightning. After driving Envy back, Yoki charges at him with his sword and lands the finishing blow. Once all the thieves are down, the warehouse owner thanks Yoki for saving him and all his Valentine's chocolates. While Yoki is surprised that this world also celebrates Valentine's Day, the royal knights rush in to check the situation. When the knights see the Temu Batman, all of them are stunned into silence. Yoki turns around and puts on his goofy hero act once more, but he fails to deceive both Raven and Duke. Duke's junior knight wonders if Yoki caused so much destruction in the warehouse, but he tells her that he was only defending it from the intruders. He then vanishes into thin air before she can question him any further. After leaving the thieves to his knights, Duke walks to another part of the warehouse, where he senses Yoki hiding. Duke calls out to Yoki and tells him to stop with the Batman act. He points out that every time Yoki gets into his goofy theatrics, he only gets embarrassed by his own actions after taking it too far. Yoki refuses to believe that he looks so goofy, but after taking a look at himself in a mirror, he realizes that his strange costume is costing him too many aura points. The next day, he returns to the guild and claims his reward for capturing the Envy Gang. Yoki wonders where the strange bandits came from, so Clayman explains that they were ordinary B-ranked adventurers before they found a strange book in a dungeon. Somehow, the book's power corrupted the innocent adventurers, after which they started going around town trying to ruin Valentine's Day for everyone. Meanwhile, as Valentine's Day grows closer, the girls around town prepare to gift chocolate to their loved ones. In Celia's kitchen, all of the maids prepare their own chocolate. Teal tries to smash a block of hard chocolate, but her tiny hands are too weak to break it. Sophia steps in and karate chops the chocolate into submission, so Teal thanks her for the help. Meanwhile, Cecilia prepares a big batch of chocolate with Makana. Makana wonders why she's making so many chocolates, since Valentine's chocolate is only meant for a single romantic partner. Cecilia explains that she's only making this chocolate for some sweet orphan kids, remaining silent about her Valentine's plans with Yoki. On Valentine's Day, Yoki wakes up in his room, unaware of what's going on. Even the literal rock statue, Guy, is more in touch with the world than he is, and reminds Yoki that it's Valentine's Day. Yoki gets up, prepared for a nice surprise, but when someone enters his room, he gets disappointed that it's little Teal. Teal ignores Yoki like he doesn't even exist and rushes straight to Guy with some special chocolates she made. Ignoring his embarrassment, she starts feeding him the chocolates with her own hands, so Yoki leaves the room before his single heart burns up from jealousy. He then enters the Adventurers Guild's main lobby, where Clayman enters with his own box of chocolates. He proudly opens the box in front of everyone, revealing that it's a special bunch of chocolates made by Sophia for him. As Clayman ruthlessly enjoys the chocolates in front of his single audience, both the receptionist and Yoki feel like they're missing out on life. Suddenly, Clayman reminds Yoki that he's not allowed to touch any of his chocolates, so he gets angry and curses him before leaving. Yoki leaves to meet up with Duke, but he also gets approached by his junior knight with a gift. Although Duke doesn't understand the meaning behind the gift, he walks off from Yoki to chat with his junior. She offers him the box, saying that she has always admired how hard he works and how much he helps her. Duke thanks her for being thoughtful and accepts the gift, bringing a smile to the girl's face, seeing even the densest of his friends getting lucky. Yoki gets even more jealous and leaves the area. However, he encounters Raven sitting in a room with Happiness, who is struggling to gift him some chocolates she made herself. Although Raven is glad to see Yoki in the awkward situation, Yoki himself turns away from him and leaves in disappointment. Afterward, Yoki takes a walk through town, where a giant line of girls ready to gift their chocolates to Yuga seems to mock his entire existence. With his heart practically fuming, Yoki continues walking before encountering Makana. He wonders if she's also here to see Yuga, but Makana doesn't seem confident enough to present her gift to him. Somehow, Yuga sneaks past the huge crowd to see Makana and asks her for his gift. Surprised, Makana feels happy, but she feels unsure about giving him the chocolate. She explains that her cooking skills aren't the best, but Yuga wishes to accept her chocolate no matter how bad it is. Finally, Makana opens up her box and reveals a chocolate ball that looks like a horrible tumor. To Yoki's surprise, Yuga isn't weirded out by the chocolate's horrific appearance. He accepts it from Makana and pops it into his mouth, saying that Valentine's Day never hits right without Makana's gift. While Yoki is surprised by this, the big crowd of girls finally notices Yuga and knocks Yoki away to get their chance with him. Finally, Yoki turns to Celia's mansion as a defeated man. There, Celia and Seek both walk out to greet him. Celia informs Yoki that Cecilia is working in town, so he finally loses all hope and collapses to his knees. Although she offers him a set of pity chocolate of her own, Yoki's pride refuses to let him accept. In the end, after Celia wonders if her gift isn't good enough for him, Yoki swallows his pride and accepts it like a good boy. Suddenly, Duke appears to inform Yoki that Envy has escaped his prison in the town's orphanage. Cecilia is working to gift chocolates to every kid when she spots a giant monster nearby. The giant monster stomps through town, carrying Envy's gang on top of his head. Using the monster's height as a vantage point, Envy declares to the town that he's acting to take revenge on behalf of all the wounded single people living there. Soon, he commands his rock golem to take away all the joyful Valentine's candy. The monster raises its hands and creates a strong force, which sucks away all the chocolate boxes from the people's hands and carts. As everyone stares in horror, the Envy gang happily continues to steal their joy away. Yuga steps up and wonders why they're ruining a happy holiday, so Envy reminds him that a handsome guy like him has no idea how much ugly single people like him suffer. Then, Envy uses his golem to stomp on Yuga, who barely avoids getting flattened. Soon, Yoki appears at the scene and tells the other heroes to evacuate the citizens while he handles the golem. As Envy continues his rampage through town, Yoki calls out to him from a rooftop. He asks the Envy gang to stop their pointless rampage, saying that it's pointless to take out their frustrations on normal people. Jealousy points out that Yoki is a lousy single moron who didn't get any chocolate either, but Yoki shamelessly claims that he did. When they ask who got it from, Yoki admits that it was just a pity gift from his friend's mom. Envy wonders how Yoki could be happy with a pity gift, but he tells her that no matter what, any gift is enough for him as long as it's made with true love. Then, Envy stops negotiating and attacks with his golem. Yoki avoids the attack and climbs on the golem's arm before taking down both jealousy and heartburn. Envy then opens fire on him with his magic book. Yoki struggles to avoid the fireballs and tries to counterattack, but Envy keeps pressuring him with a homing spell. Finally, Yoki manages to use an attack of his own, but Envy dodges it. He reminds Yoki that he'll forever be miserable just like him, but Yoki declares that he won't give up until he gets a gift from his crush. Hearing this, Cecilia looks at the gift box she got for him. Meanwhile, Envy gets enraged that Yoki even has a crush, and he launches a fire blast at him. While Yoki parries the magic attack, Envy screams at him that he would only be happy with a gift from his crush, but not if it came from a person he didn't care about. Yoki tells him that he'd accept gifts from anyone, but Envy refuses to accept and throws him back. Then, he uses his golem to suck out all of the remaining Valentine's gifts in town, including the box Cecilia made for Yoki. After seeing this, Yoki collapses from shock. Raven rushes to stop the golem, but Makana reminds warns him that he could damage everyone's precious gifts inside. Nearby, Yoki gets up with a renewed rage. In the face of his anger, a lightning bolt strikes from the sky, which Yoki redirects towards the Envy's magic book. The powerful lightning melts all of the golem's chocolate, releasing everyone's gifts that were trapped inside. After the golem disappears, Yuga catches Envy from the sky. Upon taking a closer look, he realizes that she is actually a girl. Envy firmly tells him that girls can hate Valentine's Day too, recalling that in her childhood, a boy coldly refused her chocolates because she looked like a tomboy. Envy tells Yuga that nobody would like a gift from a tomboy like her, but he shakes his head, saying that as long as a gift is made with love, many people would accept it. Hearing the heartfelt line from the hero herself, Envy falls in love and regains her faith in romance once more. Yoki feels mad that Yuga basically stole his lines and got away with it, but soon, Cecilia walks over to him. She gives him a gift box before leaving in her carriage, which Yoki happily accepts. After Cecilia leaves, Yoki opens the box and eats some cookies from it. Duke notes that Cecilia gave cookies to everyone else, so Yoki feels sad that he didn't get anything special. However, he also notices that he got a cake, so Happiness points out that he got a special gift that no one else did. Happy to be finally noticed by his crush, Yoki screams out in joy. A few days later, Clayman gives Yoki a briefing about a robber gang that has been stealing ship cargo near the port town Frimaire. Of course, the first thing that pops into Yoki's mind after hearing about the beach is seeing Cecilia in a swimsuit, so he instantly accepts Clayman's commission to investigate the case. Unfortunately, when he asks Cecilia to come along with him, she turns him down since she has a lot of paperwork to handle at home. Instead, she sends Happiness to accompany Yoki in her place, but she seems less than pleased. Yoki apologizes for getting her dragged into his mess before noticing some strange items on her hip. Happiness proudly shows them off, explaining that she's using the feathers from her own body as weapons. Then, Raven also shows up to join them for the mission. When Happiness notices him, she turns around and greets him with a good morning. Raven gets flustered by her attention and notices that she's wearing a pretty ornament in her hair. Although Happiness feels pleased that he noticed, she's too shy to say anything about it. The carriage driver then announces that they're about to leave, so she heads in to get her seat. Raven wonders if Yoki invited Happiness to hang out with him, but Yoki explains that he brought her since her magic abilities would be useful for the mission. Raven feels embarrassed that he doesn't know anything about his own crush's abilities. Yoki points out that Raven hasn't known Happiness for too long, so they should start getting along once they spend more time together. However, after they all actually get in the carriage, both Raven and Happiness end up blankly staring at each other like living mannequins. Afterward, they arrive at the port town, where Yoki leaves Raven and Happiness alone while he consults the locals for his mission. After he leaves, Happiness quickly turns to the locals and starts asking for information. The local sailor wonders what she wants, so Raven quickly scribbles an explanation for him, realizing that the kids are there on the guild's behalf. The sailor explains that the locals are having trouble uncovering the thieves. Happiness wonders how a robber could be so stealthy, and the sailor nods. He also explains that the city's authorities suspect the sailors of smuggling off their goods, so their investigations aren't bearing any results. Happiness asks him if the sailors truly aren't the culprits, so the man firmly reassures her that they're all honest workers. Then, both Happiness and Raven promise to help him uncover the truth, so the man turns to his buddies and calls them all to celebrate the good news. Soon, the gruff men surround the two kids, beaming at their cute helpers. After some time, Yoki returns from his own investigation. He asks Raven about any clues, so Raven reveals that there are no eyewitnesses to the robber stealing the cargo. He also explains that all of the sailors posted to guard the cargo seem to forget any memories of the robbery. Yoki feels confused by this, and Raven thinks that the sailors are being honest since this story would be too ridiculous to hide a secret. He then reveals that all of the sailors heard a strange singing voice before they lost their memories, which could point them to the real culprit. Raven suggests that it could be a mermaid monster, so Yoki gets excited to see it for himself. Then, as he starts calling to Happiness to start searching for the mermaid, Raven tries to stop him. However, it's too late, since all the sailors hear the monster's name. In an instant, they all get terrified of getting eaten by the dangerous sea monster. Yoki wonders if mermaids are really that scary, so the sailors inform him that they've lost many ships and sailors to mermaids in the past. Ever since they started losing men to the attacks, the sailors have felt scared to go out to sea. After they finish explaining, Raven writes that he's a knight from the hero's party, and Yoki explains to the sailors that he's here to protect them from the sea threat. Hearing that a legendary hero is here to protect them, the sailors feel relieved and finally disperse. Afterward, Yoki sits with Happiness, realizing that humans aren't as used to monsters as him. Happiness taunts Yoki for living under a rock, reminding him that his own demon lord's army caused incredible destruction to the humans. As Yoki admits that he was careless, Raven comes back from his trip to the market. Happiness offers him a sweet treat, which he happily accepts, but Yoki notices that the romantic tension between them is much sweeter than the treat itself. Raven then stops flirting and informs Yoki that he got some news about the mermaid. Just a little while ago, when he was out shopping, a strange man approached him and informed him of the mermaid's location. Yoki thinks that the man sounds fishy as hell, and Raven agrees, but he knows they should investigate his report anyway. Then, he tells Happiness to stay behind while he investigates the suspicious matter with Yoki. Happiness refuses to stay behind, but Raven requests her once more to accept. She wonders why he's being so stubborn, so Raven reminds her that he has dealt with a demon lord invasion in the past. Back then, even with the help of the hero's party, Raven couldn't protect an entire village from being destroyed by monsters. Now, he doesn't want to put Happiness at the same risk when confronting a dangerous situation. However, she still refuses to stay behind and gets up to investigate the report. Although Raven feels unsure, Yoki reassures him that Happiness is much stronger than she looks. After some time, the three of them reach the location described by the witness. There, they find an entire stash of cargo matching the descriptions of all the items lost by the sailors. Happiness then turns to an opening to see nearby, which looks too narrow to fit a ship through. Suddenly, the water starts bubbling, and everyone get on their guard. Soon, a beautiful mermaid launches out of the water and sits right in front of the three kids. As she opens her mouth, Raven instantly realizes she's about to sing and warns everyone to cover their ears. Soon, the mermaid's stinging voice rings out, causing incredible headaches for the three. Despite the painful noise, Happiness steps forward and starts singing herself, which causes the mermaid's hypnotic sound waves to get cancelled out. This gives Raven the chance to uncover his ears and rush towards the mermaid, so Yoki supports him with a rock spell. Realizing that her attack isn't working, the mermaid turns around to flee into the sea's depths. However, Yoki's rock tendrils block her escape path from below, which allows Raven to corner her. The mermaid accepts her fate, but she pleads with Raven to save her friend, who has been kidnapped by humans. While Yoki and Happiness feel bad for the mermaid, Raven refuses to listen to her. He coldly tells the mermaid that he'll never trust a demon like her, so she starts crying in despair. Seeing this, Happiness feels bad for her, and she steps in front of Raven's sword to shield the mermaid. Even the mermaid feels surprised, but Raven remains stone cold and refuses to budge an inch. He asks Happiness why she's protecting a monster, but she is unable to answer him. Then, Yoki also begs Raven to have some mercy, so he wonders why both of his friends are siding with the enemy. Yoki reassures Raven that he would never protect a demon who harmed innocent people, but he points out that the mermaid's story might be true. After he asks Raven to reconsider, he finally lowers his sword and lets the mermaid go. Once Raven relents, Happiness collapses to her knees, recalling a traumatic event from her past where she faced something similar. Since Yoki knows what she's going through, he softly comforts her. Then, he notices the mermaid nearby and asks her to explain the full story. Still surprised, the mermaid wonders if they'll seriously listen to her. Even though the kids agree to listen, she still hesitates to speak up. Noticing the awkward atmosphere, Yoki starts by introducing himself as an adventurer to the mermaid. Happiness calls him out for his cheerful act, but Yoki shuts her down and introduces his two friends to the mermaid. Finally, the mermaid introduces herself as Shaik, and Yoki asks her why she was trying to hypnotize his friends. Feeling guilty, Shaik lowers her head and quietly explains that she was forced to do this by humans. Although her family usually stays away from humans, one day, when she was out swimming in the sea with her friend Misaki, a storm caught both of them. After Shaik woke up from the horrible storm, she found herself tied and and blindfolded in a human ship. There, a dangerous man warned her to put all the sailors to sleep, or else he would kill her dear friend. Ever since then, the human bandits kept taking her to ships, forcing her to put the sailors to sleep so they could rob them. Yoki thinks that Shike is speaking the truth, but Raven feels skeptical of her story. Happiness realizes that Raven would never trust a demon on his own, so she holds his hands and begs him to trust the mermaid for her sake. Finally, Raven agrees to hear her out and suggests that they investigate the mermaid's story. Afterward, they learn that all the goods inside the cave are fake since the bandits are using them to lure any investigators. After getting the investigators into the cave, the bandits would let Shike put them to sleep before killing them and getting rid of the evidence. Yoki feels terrified that he almost died and asks Shike if she knows about the bandits' headquarters. Shike explains that the bandits had her eyes covered while moving her around, so she didn't see where their base was. Then, Raven points out that the bandits should be arriving at the cave to dispose of them. As Raven leaves the caves to confront the bandits, they walk in a formation towards the location. Soon, the bandits run into Raven and act concerned, but Raven quietly asks if they're behind all the robberies. For some reason, the idiot bandits choose to focus on Raven's girly voice and start laughing at him. However, Raven gets serious, realizing the bandits are scumbags who forced an innocent mermaid to commit crimes. Finally, he raises his sword, so the bandits charge to attack him. Raven easily takes out the first bandit, before clashing with their leader. Soon, he knocks out the leader's weapon and takes him down, before knocking out a few more bandits. Quickly, the leftover bandits realize they're screwed, and they try to run away. However, they run into Yoki, who starts yapping to create a heroic entrance for himself. Happiness appears behind Yoki and shoves him to the side, and uses her fans to blow the rest of the bandits away. Once all of the bandits are down, the kids tie them up together. In the face of defeat, the bandit leader acts like Shike had hypnotized them into stealing from the sailors. However, when Raven points a sword at his face, the leader finally confesses and reveals the location of Shike's captured friend. Later, Yoki and the others visit the location described by the bandits, where they find a strange shaking crate. Raven wonders if the cruel bandits stuffed the poor mermaid inside like luggage and opens the crate to free her. When the box opens, a mermaid pops out of it with her legs transformed into human form. Happiness quickly covers the mermaid, who introduces herself as Misaki. Afterward, the group returns with Misaki to Shike's cave, where she hugs her friend in relief. Both Misaki and Shike thank the group for saving their lives, and they sing a song to them in gratitude. After the mermaids finish their song, they prepare to leave. However, Raven steps up and kneels in front of Shike and apologizes for being so cruel to her. Shike smiles and accepts his apology with a kiss on the cheek and leaves for the sea with Misaki. After the mermaids leave, Happiness starts shaking with rage. Then, she blows Yoki into the ground and quickly sneaks up to Raven, before giving him a kiss of her own. Meanwhile, on the ground, Yoki screams out in shock, upset that he missed the spicy scene. One day, Teal delivers a message from Cecilia to Yoki. He thanks her for helping him out on her day off, but Teal explains that she was hoping to see Guy in his room anyway. Yoki nods and leaves the room, wondering why she's being so secretive. After he's outside, he hears Teal screaming in joy about how well she disguised her excitement. Then, she pulls out a bag of magic crystals for Guy, who tells her to take better care of herself instead of looking after him all the time. Later, Yoki visits Cecilia's mansion, where he sits down to have some tea with her. Yoki cracks a few jokes about Teal, but then he realizes he's got nothing interesting to talk about. After some flimsy compliments on Cecilia's tea, he chickens out and leaves the mansion. Outside, Yoki feels happy that he got to talk with Cecilia, but he wonders if these silly meetings are all he's ever going to get from her. Stumped by his romantic dilemma, Yoki contacts Duke to ask him for help. Duke realizes that he's got no other friends to talk to, and Yoki feels embarrassed but can't deny his logic. Yoki then informs him that he's been using an invisibility spell to disguise himself and lurk around Cecilia's mansion. That way, he hopes to see a new side of his crush and better understand her. Yoki recalls seeing Cecilia practice with Seek, feeling surprised that she works so hard behind the scenes. However, Duke is horrified since he has literally been committing a crime by stalking someone's private property. Then, he sighs, realizing just how desperate Yoki is. Finally, Duke declares that Yoki is too big of a pansy compared to how much he claims he loves Cecilia. He wonders if Yoki is happy to remain a stupid tea buddy to Cecilia forever, saying that he needs to learn a lot more about her her to progress his relationship. However, he warns Yoki to stop stalking her everywhere, which he agrees to do. While the two of them are chatting away, Makana happens to pass their table. Duke immediately drags her over to Yoki and leaves them alone to chat about his relationship troubles. Afterward, he sends Raven to join the two of them as well. Raven continues speaking through his notepad, so Makana asks him to just talk like normal. However, he still feels offended by her remarks and prefers to remain silent. Makana then agrees to tell Yoki more about Cecilia. She explains that without Cecilia, the heroes' party could not have remained intact. Yoki wonders if they get injured all the time, but Makana explains that they had other issues. Usually, the party would get hounded by women lusting after Yuga or run into problems because of Raven and Makana's lack of communication. However, whenever Cecilia stepped in, she managed to calm down everyone's heated emotions. Makana explains that Cecilia also handled most of the party's paperwork, so Yoki taunts her for shoving all the work onto Cecilia's desk. Both Makana and Raven explain that they tried splitting up the tasks, with Raven taking up the cooking role. Since Makana couldn't cook, she handled other work. Yoki wonders what Yuga handled, so she reveals that he was in charge of getting cooking ingredients. However, he would always get into trouble, so he was basically useless. Makana also reveals that she handled intelligence work along with Cecilia. Then, Makana tells Yoki that Cecilia also handled their finances, so he points out that Yuga did literally nothing for them. Makana silently agrees, but she also thinks that whenever Yuga caused a mishap, it was out of goodwill. She thinks that their party could never have been successful without Yuga's kind heart. Yoki suddenly remembers that he was supposed to ask them about Cecilia. After some time, Makana and Raven finish telling Yoki everything important about Cecilia. Then, Makana remembers that Cecilia has a famous nickname as well. Yoki is surprised, so Makana smiles, saying that her nickname is quite hilarious. Suddenly, Cecilia herself interrupts their conversation, so Makana almost soils herself from terror. She wonders how Makana caught wind of her, so Cecilia explains that she needed her help. Then, she grabs Makana's arm with a menacing grin, promising to have a nice, long chat with her for talking behind her back. Finally, Cecilia excuses herself and drags Makana away from both Yoki and Raven. Once they're gone, Raven apologizes to Yoki since he can't say Cecilia's embarrassing nickname out loud. Yoki nods before Raven takes him out to the town's orphanage. As he explains that Cecilia often supports the orphanage, the children playing around notice the two. Soon, they flock over to Raven, calling him the cold-blooded swordsman. Yoki wonders why they're calling him with this title, so Raven explains that it's his own nickname. Then, the kids start playing with Raven. A few of them ask Yoki why the Holy Mother hasn't arrived at the orphanage, so he finally learns that it's Cecilia's nickname. Afterward, both Raven and Yoki walk back home. On the way back, Raven explains that since he doesn't speak too often or kill anyone during his fights, the kids started calling him the cold-blooded swordsman who neither sheds tears nor blood. Then, he also reveals that Yuga's nickname is the Wandering Hero, while Makana is called the Eternal Friend. Yoki refuses to comment on Makana being eternally friend-zoned, but he wonders why Cecilia is called the Holy Mother. Raven refuses to explain, but he thinks that Yoki will find out on his own. He then wonders what Yoki will do after learning everything about Cecilia. Yoki wonders what he means, but Raven refuses to explain further. Then, Raven switches the topic and asks Yoki what he'd like to do next. Yoki tells him that he wants to get closer to Cecilia, but he doesn't know what to do. Raven thinks that he should do a few missions with Cecilia, which gives Yoki an incredible idea. In an instant, his arrogant persona kicks in, and Yoki decides that he will take Cecilia on a dangerous mission to save her as a damsel in distress. The next day, Yoki invites Cecilia to his mission and waits for her in the town square. Soon, Makana walks up to him, explaining that Raven sent her to join him. While Yoki is devastated by this third wheel, Makana wonders how he's planning to impress Cecilia on the mission. Yoki reveals that he's taking Cecilia to wipe out some undead from a haunted mansion. Makana thinks that Cecilia is perfect for this mission, which surprises him. Yoki explains that he was trying to scare Cecilia so she'd rely on him, but Makana screams at him, pointing out that Cecilia is literally a priestess who specializes in dealing with the undead. Hearing this, Makana is stunned by Yoki's stupidity. Then, she rips him apart for thinking without his brain and tells him to actually pay attention to Cecilia's own strengths and weaknesses. Then, she tells Yoki to take up the lead with Cecilia since she'll support them from the sidelines. Yoki nods, patience, thinking that her plan could work. Soon, Cecilia arrives as well, along with Happiness, whom she called for backup. Once everyone is ready, Yoki leads them all to the haunted mansion. After they arrive, Yoki and Happiness eagerly rush forward to begin their mission. Mikana drags them back, reminding Yoki that he needs to let Cecilia fight to create a chance to save her. Then, Yoki teams up with Cecilia to take the front and sends Happiness to the back to support them with Mikana. Soon, they enter the mansion, where Cecilia takes the lead. Once the group encounters its first horde of undead, Cecilia takes them out with a holy circle. Then, an even bigger group of undead walks out, so Yoki binds them all together with a water rope. With the skeletons tied up, Cecilia takes them out with another holy circle spell. Yoki feels worried that the spells are exhausting her strength, so he gives her a water bottle to rehydrate herself. Afterward, the group explores the mansion and fully clears out all of the undead living within. Soon, they find themselves standing outside the throne room, knowing that there's an undead king behind its door. After they enter the throne room, they find the undead king proudly sitting on his throne with a crown on top of his head. Yoki wonders if the undead king is a strong boss monster, but Cecilia explains that it's about as strong as a regular undead. However, the danger from undead kings comes from their intelligence, which they use to lead the dumb skeletons. After Yoki learns that the undead king is harmless, he lets down his guard and challenges the king to a fight. The undead king wakes up from his loud yapping and orders his soldiers to dispose of him. However, Yoki points out that he already wiped out all his soldiers, so the undead king picks up his own sword to fight. As the king aimlessly swings his sword, Yoki appears before him in a flash. He then kicks the crown off the skeleton's head and starts mocking him for looking so pathetic. Terrified, the skeleton runs back to his crown and picks it back up, acting like it's the most precious thing in the world. Even Yoki's own party members think he's cruel for mocking a dead man, leaving him no room to defend himself. Nearby, the undead king is infuriated that Yoki desecrated his beloved crown. In a fit of rage, he regains the courage to attack Yoki again. Yoki has enough of his shenanigans and knocks his sword away. Then, the king realizes that he has truly lost, and he collapses to his knees in defeat. As Mikana wonders if the undead skeleton will stop resisting, the king simply holds his crown in his hands. Yoki tells Cecilia to purify the undead, so she steps forward to face him. After getting close to the undead king, she asks him why he's so obsessed with his crown. The king explains that the crown was very special to him, but he doesn't remember why. Cecilia thinks that he must have been a kind who cared about his nation. Then, she offers to send the king to heaven along with the crown he loves. Watching her speak so gently to the monster, Yoki recalls how he felt when he first met Cecilia in the Demon Lord's palace. Then, Cecilia gathers her energy and releases a spell called Heaven's Rondo, which creates a brilliant light above the skeleton king. Soon, the light causes the skeleton to ascend into the sky, giving him a peaceful rest. After the spell is complete, Cecilia stumbles from the incredible strain it put on her body. Mikana gets angry that she used such a high-ranked spell, but Yoki reassures her that she'll be fine. He then tells Mikana and Happiness to scout the rest of the mansion again, just in case, hoping to get some time alone with Cecilia. After the two girls leave, Yoki asks Cecilia if she can walk with his support or if he should carry her outside. Panting from exhaustion, Cecilia collapses and asks him to support her. Yoki helps her stand up, wondering why she spent so much mana. Cecilia explains that she didn't want the king's crown to be left behind, but she suddenly stumbles again from exhaustion. Yoki realizes that she's simply putting on a brave front and can't walk back in this condition. He then lifts her up in his arms, which leaves Cecilia completely embarrassed. Afterward, Yoki carries her out of the mansion and into the carriage. Once Mikana and Happiness return from their mission, they find both Yoki and Cecilia unable to look each other in the eye. Afterward, they return home, and Yoki asks Mikana if he did well. She smiles, but refuses to give his performance any ratings. Yoki wonders why, but Mikana thinks he'll do better without her guidance affecting his thoughts, recalling how he carried Cecilia out of the large mansion. She praises Yoki for helping others with his full strength. Then, she turns around to leave, feeling like Yoki left her behind in the romance department. The next day, Yoki visits Cecilia in her mansion. There, she asks him about his visit to the orphanage. Cecilia pleads with Yoki to keep her nickname a secret, so he instantly promises to keep his mouth shut. However, Yoki wonders why she's so embarrassed about the nickname and asks where she got it from. Cecilia hesitates, but she thinks it's best to tell him herself. Finally, she explains that in the hero's party, Yuga would always glaze her for cooking and caring for the team like the group's mom. Ever since then, he started calling her mom, much to her embarrassment, which later led to the orphanage kids calling her mother as well. Hearing that her name has such a plain and silly backstory, Yoki is unable to contain his laughter. A few days later, Guy asks Yoki to find him a job since he's tired of being a freeloader. Shocked, Yoki wonders if he made Guy feel unwelcome in his room or something, but Guy explains that he simply wants to work for the sake of Teal. Guy points out that Teal spends her hard-earned money to buy magic ore for him every day, so he simply wants to return the favor to her. Yoki nods, realizing that the gargoyle is serious, and agrees to find him a real job. However, when he visits the Adventure Guild dressed up as the Black Thunder magic swordsman, along with Guy in a demonic mask, the receptionist almost dies from a heart attack. Terrified, she screams at Clayman to come out and deal with her terrifying customers, so he walks out of the back room. Clay complains that he was busy with important work, but the receptionist points out that he was simply enjoying his wife's home-cooked meals. Feeling embarrassed, Clayman finally gets to work and asks Yoki what he wants. Guy asks Clayman to make him an adventurer, so he nods and completes the registration in front of the shocked receptionist. After getting Guy's adventurer card, Yoki takes him out to the city to buy some weapons and gear. Guy wonders why he can't just use his own magic, so Yoki reminds him that he needs to hide his identity as a demon. The next morning, Yoki returns to the Adventurers Guild with Guy to get some commissions for him, before giving him any missions, though Clayman tells Yoki that there's a special guest waiting for him. Soon, Yoki goes to the back of the guild, where he finds Cecilia waiting for him. Even though he's in his disguise, Cecilia calls him out, and Yoki folds under zero pressure. He wonders how she found out about his disguise, so Cecilia explains that Sophia tells her all about the Black Swordsman's exploits. Since she knows how troublesome Yoki can be with his goofy antics, Cecilia felt worried and came to the guild to check on him. Yoki reassures her that he's only trying to get a job for Guy, so she feels relieved. Then, Cecilia asks why Yoki is in his hero outfit, so he explains that he's only trying to fit in with Guy. Then, Cecilia offers to help them out with their commissions. Yoki tries to protest, but Cecilia refuses to trust him with a newbie. Afterward, the three of them grab a commission to find a lost cat and head out to complete it. When they find the client, Yoki scares them with his loud bluster, so Cecilia steps up and calmly asks them how they lost the cat. After a while, she draws a sketch of the cat based on the client's description and shows it to Yoki and Guy. Meanwhile, Yoki takes deep whiffs of the cat's scent from the client's bodies. Once Cecilia is finished with her questions, Guy wonders where they should start looking. Yoki tells him that normally, people start by asking around the area and contacting local police. However, he shifts into his hero gear and jumps up to a roof, tracking the cat's scent with his powerful smell. Soon, he finds the cat in an alley with a friend. As Yoki tries to get close, the cat hisses at him, so he puts it to sleep with calming magic. Afterward, he returns both cats to the family and asks them to take care of the stray as well. After completing the first commission, Yoki gets ready to take on another one. However, Cecilia reminds him that they're supposed to help Guy learn how to complete missions on their own, not speedrun easy tasks with Yoki's demonic abilities. Finally, Yoki realizes his mistake, and Cecilia suggests letting Guy handle the work this time. After some time, they reach a forest where Guy begins collecting herbs. Yoki warns Guy not to take too much, so he only takes as much as they need to complete their commission. After the herbs, Guy moves on to eliminating a goblin horde from the forest. Cecilia wonders if they should help out Guy, but the fearsome demon easily dispatches the low-level goblins. Afterward, they return to the Adventurers Guild, where Clayman hands over the commission rewards to Guy. Holding the hard-earned money in his hands, Guy finally feels like he's being a productive member of society. Knowing that Teal works so hard every day to earn money despite her illness, he vows to work even more to support her in the future. Both Cecilia and Yoki wish him good luck, and Yoki offers to join him in his future quests as well. However, Guy asks them to let him handle the missions alone, since he's confident he can find his way around the city now. Yoki nods and respects his wishes, so Guy leaves to begin his own adventuring journey. After Guy leaves, Yoki turns to say goodbye to Cecilia. She asks him what he'll do afterward, so Yoki explains that he'll do some ranked quest himself. Hearing this, Cecilia asks to join him on his next quest. Yoki instantly gets flustered at the thought of doing missions with her and tries to to make excuses so she can back down. However, Cecilia refuses to leave, saying that she has lots of free time to go adventuring with him. Then, Yoki points out that she's still in her church outfit, so it won't be easy for her to go on long journeys. Cecilia nods, but she only leaves to change into a more comfortable outfit. With her new disguise, she feels ready to accompany Yoki on his long journey. Later, both of them walk towards their quest's destination. Cecilia notes that Clayman looked quite pleased when they accepted the mission, so Yoki explains that ranked commissions aren't easy to solve. Still, he thinks that their current mission is too easy. Cecilia quickly jumps at this and explains to the uncultured Yoki that surveying new territories and unexplored ruins is important archaeological work. Yoki wonders if they'll get to fight some exotic monsters, but Cecilia warns him to stay clear since their mission focuses on exploration. Then, she recalls that their current quest came from a very important client, so the guild must have placed their trust in Yoki. After hearing this, Yoki finally decides to take the quest seriously. Then, Cecilia notes that it's getting quite late, so they set camp to rest for the night. After setting up a fire, Cecilia starts cooking, but Yoki feels embarrassed to spend the whole night alone with her. Still, he decides to simply hide behind his mask the whole time. With the added confidence from his Delulu mode, Yoki creates a barrier around their camp to secure it from unwanted intruders. Then, he gives Cecilia a big bag of fruits and veggies he picked from the forest. Cecilia is impressed by his speed, but she wonders why he's still keeping his mask on even though they're alone. Yoki tries to make excuses, claiming that he needs to maintain his professional identity until they complete the mission. Then, he opens the mouth of his mask to prove that he can eat even in his disguise. However, Cecilia refuses to let him hang around with his ridiculous getup, so Yoki finally takes off his dumb mask. After he takes it off, Cecilia pours out the soup and serves it to him. After Yoki takes a few bites, he falls in love with the food and starts devouring it. Then, he realizes how desperate he's looking in front of Cecilia, so he quickly finishes the rest of it and puts his mask back on. Yoki suggests that it's time to go to bed, so Cecilia wonders why he's going to sleep so early. Feeling bad for her, he asks if she isn't feeling tired after all the adventuring they did. Suddenly, Cecilia changes her cute tone and gains a delusional amount of confidence. She proudly declares that she's a member of the hero's party who was tasked to defeat the demon lord himself. So a small quest like this is nothing to her. Even Yoki is stunned by her confidence. So Cecilia reverts to her normal self and explains that she was just copying him. Afterward, both of them lie down to rest. While resting, Cecilia recalls that the king called her to his court to discuss another marriage proposal. At the time, she rejected it, saying that she wasn't mature enough for marriage. The king wondered if she was rejecting the proposal for Yoki's sake, but Cecilia acted like he had nothing to do with it. However, the king explained to her that this special proposal had come from the heir to a powerful kingdom, so she could not decline it so easily. As the memory fades, Cecilia soon falls asleep. The next morning, Cecilia and Yoki finally reach their destination. After they enter the ruins, Cecilia takes out a book, which releases a glowing orb in the darkness. Cecilia offers to lead the way, but Yoki thinks he should do it instead, so she points out that his powerful magic could damage the ruins. Cecilia thinks that she can easily handle any smaller monsters they'll encounter, but Yoki reassures her that he can explore the place without destroying it. Then, he takes the lead and moves ahead. After exploring the ruins for a while, Yoki detects a dozen monsters hidden in a room up ahead. While Cecilia is surprised, Yoki quietly stalks the room. After seeing all the monsters in one place, Cecilia thinks that they should switch routes since she can't restrain so many at once. However, Yoki steps up and covers her eyes before releasing an illusion sphere. After the sphere enters the room, all of the monsters gather around it. Cecilia complains that she can't see, but Yoki continues covering her eyes while they cross the room. Once they've left the room, Cecilia curiously asks which spell Yoki used. He explains that it was an illusion sphere, which traps people by showing them the things they love most. In Yoki's case, he thinks that he would have likely seen Cecilia herself, and a guy like Raven would have seen happiness. Then, Cecilia wonders what she would have seen, and she thinks that the sphere would have shown her a delicious cake. Although Yoki is disappointed that he's less important to her than a dessert, he continues exploring the ruins without saying a word. After a while, they reach the end of the ruins, which is simply an empty room. Yoki feels disappointed since he expected to see some hidden treasure or secret boss monster. However, Cecilia is happy enough to record explored the rare mushrooms growing inside. Afterward, they leave the ruins through a different exit. There, they find a beautiful area with flowing water and lush greenery. While appreciating the scenery, Cecilia notes that it's getting late, so she suggests resting at their previous campsite before returning to the Adventurers Guild. The next day, Yoki and Cecilia return to the guild. Yoki starts blustering about their wild adventures to Clayman, but Cecilia knocks him to the side and presents her findings to him. As Clayman looks at her notes, he feels overjoyed since it's incredibly difficult to get detailed reports on older areas. As a reward, he hands them a huge bag of cash. Yoki feels happy and thinks that they should throw a party to celebrate. Cecilia agrees with him, but she forces him to come home and change out of his stupid outfit first. However, when they return to Yoki's room, they find the door already unlocked. Inside, they find Teal collapsed on the floor, a ghastly expression on her face as she calls for her beloved Guy. Teal gets up in a horror movie fashion and asks Yoki and Cecilia to show her the way to her beloved lord. Before she can become too scary, Guy actually returns home. In an instant, Teal's horrifying expression disappears, and she jumps into Guy's arms with joy. Guy apologizes for making her worry and explains that he has rented his own room in the city. He then reveals that he has become an independent adventurer. Before asking Teal to stop buying magic ore for him with her hard-earned money, Teal refuses to stop, reminding him that she buys all the ore out of love. Then, she quickly drags him away to his new room, leaving Yoki and Cecilia stunned behind. After the two lovebirds leave, Yoki finally gets the chance to look at himself in the mirror. As soon as he gets a look, he is horrified to see how goofy he looks. As Yoki starts rolling on the floor in embarrassment, Cecilia feels bad for him. Finally, she decides to comfort him, saying that she doesn't mind using her own disguise to do more quests with the Black Hero Swordsman. Hearing this, Yoki gets another ego boost, and he returns to his Delulu mode, promising to show Cecilia more of his awesome abilities in the future. That was episode 10. Subscribe to not miss the next part and watch the next video on screen.